Listen up. The American Heart Association recently announced that coconut oil is bad for you. I'm a little angry that it took them this long to tell us. Before I found out, I was so misinformed that I spent years accidentally being healthy from eating coconut oil. I feel like an idiot. But I appreciate the American Heart Association for telling me I was mistaken all this time.
And I've been through a lot of different styles of eating, but the one that ended up sticking for me was the ketogenic diet, and the main reason I like it is just how it makes my brain feel.
Okay, guys, welcome back to the Grimerica Show. We are going to be chatting with Tristan Haggard from Primal Edge Health a little bit later, all the way down in Ecuador, and his wife pops in a little bit from time to time. We're basically talking about a lot of ketogenic diet and health and things like that. Yeah, it's a good one. You should enjoy that. But first, as always, the one and only Gramalama Ding Dong Dunlop. How's it going, buddy?
I'm good. How you doing?
Good.
Yeah, what a great chat with Tristan coming up here. Talk about the whole American Heart Association thing with the, demonizing coconut oil, and we get into, our culture of health and some of the things to do, the daily biohacks and the dietary changes and stuff. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, he's going to actually send me over that meal plan. I'm going to try it out.
Yeah, I printed it up, actually.
You got it already?
I got it.
You didn't forward it to me, you fuck?
No, we're going to try. I think I'm going to try. I don't know if I'm going to go there fully, but there's a bunch of people at work doing it as well. Like, it's very interesting. It's all over the place now.
It seems
I'm waiting for restaurants to start cooking keto-friendly diets. Like, I don't know of too many that are doing that.
It's coming. Yeah, it's coming. It'll be the new wave.
Yeah.
See how it goes.
Yeah.
I'll give it a whirl. I haven't tried any of the other ways. Someone's telling me that Atkins died of a massive heart attack.
No, that's all bullshit. Where did we talk to?
I don't know.
Yeah, I talked to him about that.
Was telling me that.
I know. It was something else.
That he died of?
Yeah.
Not a massive heart attack.
Wasn't it in this episode that we talked about it? I think it was.
Could be. Yeah, could be.
You weren't there. Were you there?
I was there. Where the fuck would I be?
I don't know, but.
So last time we had a guest host, Ponce emailed me and asked if we were phasing in a replacement. You know what it was? It was when Michael first started coming around.
Oh, okay.
A couple people thought maybe I was phasing out.
You're phasing out? You're training people?
My replacements. Yeah.
Hey,
you guys aren't going to get rid of me that easy. Without me around, it would just be too crazy around here.
That's right. Too many beliefs going on.
Oh, yeah. We're would be all bouncing off the walls. We'd be banned from a couple places.
C-Sedian.
Oh, yeah. C-Sedi shut the fuck down.
So,
Greer's finally got it. 2 out of line.
What do I want to say about that other thing? See, I'm having a real bad time remembering things right now. Just tonight in the
Have you been on the wheat?
No, I haven't.
Didn't I just watch you fucking hammer down a burger?
That was without a bun.
What'd you do with the bun?
I ordered it without one. They gave it a lettuce wrap instead. Did you know A&W does that?
No.
Yeah.
Huh. How was it?
Messy.
Yeah, and loud.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's too bad.
No, but what was I going to say about that? Oh, about the What the Health movie. So that, the guy that you're talking about who heard that Atkins guy had a heart attack, that What the Health is that it's a total vegan propaganda thing, right? I mean, not that I'm all for the factory farming and all that, but they still demonize saturated fats and the wrong stuff, right?
Yeah.
I feel like they're like 20 years old in there. I mean, I haven't seen it, so I shouldn't really comment much, but I hear it's pretty bad.
It's tough to even find that shit these days,
What shit?
I lost my train of thought.
Yeah, we're both having a tough day.
It's hard to find. What are we talking about?
The saturated fats or the old...
Oh, it's hard to find a good food doc that I can trust. That's the one.
Oh, doctor?
Documentary.
Documentary.
Information on food is fucking hard, man.
Yeah, totally. Because there's so much.
I can find my bearings on most other things, and I mean, whether I'm right or wrong, or none of the above is indifferent. I can usually just come to my own conclusions. But with food, it's just tough. It's constantly changing.
Totally.
Yeah, there's so much shit out there that it's fucking hard to decide what's where we're at.
There's even the plant dilemma now, where the plants are they're showing all these scientific evidence about the plants releasing a chemical, right? That's dangerous to us, like a poison, lectin or whatever it is.
They're starting to release
there's a bunch of them. No, there's just the science. The people are talking about it more now. There's a bunch of plants, so it's not as easy to be a vegan either because you're also taking in this poison from the plants. It's releasing it. It's they're showing like if you eat a side of a plant, the other side of the plant is releasing this toxin. It knows it's being eaten.
Even after you cut it down?
Well, I don't know if you killed it first.
You wonder if these things will adapt to fucking... Then we're stuck with what? GMO?
I know. What are we stuck with, right?
Growing meat?
No, I mean, we're stuck with proper organic... You know what it is? It's asking your food and, it's intentionally praying to your food before you eat it. Like the whole water thing. Maybe that's what it is.
The plant's like, all right.
The plant's like, okay, I know this is for a higher purpose. I'll let you.
So you're assuming you're a higher purpose than the plants. You're just like the vegans. You think you're better than fucking plants. Well,
I mean, it's organic farming or like humanely
most of the people on the planet.
Humanely raised eat meat and eggs and stuff. And vegetables. Maybe vegetables that don't release. I mean, I don't know. Where does it go from here? It seems
grow
like
your own food.
Maybe grow your own food with that intention, right?
Yeah, you could grow
in a sustainable way. In a sustainable way, right?
Yeah,
maybe
start growing your own food, motherfuckers.
Well, that's actually what Tristan talks about a lot: is the communities, right? Building that community. Can't all be online, right?
So much.
Go to your farmer's market. Okay, I'll try.
I need a jingle to shut Graham down from saying right.
It's happening in my daily life too.
Maybe it says wrong.
It's happening in my daily life.
Right, wrong.
I recognize it. Okay. I'm trying.
I'll just keep calling you on it. Okay. I think that's the first word that's creeped in on the show. I mean, I say as always all the time, but that's kind of part of the shtick now.
Yeah, that's no problem. That's the intro.
So if we have any words that we're saying too much, you guys got to let us know so we can try and correct them.
At the beginning,
we need to try and fucking course correct.
Actually, you know what? I got right from Tristan.
Oh, stop it.
I think I did.
Think so?
I think so. You asked me. You said, "Where did you get it from?"
I did ask,
and then
it's not
I started
someplace
noticing.
I'm not getting it, so it's something you're doing that I'm not.
Exactly. And there you go. Primal Edge.
What the fuck was that? Are you serious? It broke the gate. Your gas broke the gate. Wow, that's never happened before.
So, anyways,
is there fire in here?
I got an email. I got an email today that the CSETI YouTube channel was shut down.
Yeah, I noticed that yesterday, and I actually went there, and it says...
Did you notice that yesterday?
Yeah, I'm going to go there right now.
No, but you can't rely on it. It doesn't... It's just a Reddit... It's a Reddit conspiracy.
No, I went there.
Through the Reddit link, or you went there on your own? Because you can't get there on your own through YouTube.
Can't you?
No, it's all other channels. So this could just be somebody making it up. There might not even be a CSETI YouTube channel. I think it's a troll.
Oh, that would be pretty funny. Huh.
Anyway, CSETI is that organization, just for people that aren't aware that...
Did you actually search through YouTube or just Google?
No, I searched through YouTube as well. Yeah.
I have trouble trusting you on anything technical.
The Center for Study of Extraterrestrial Intelligence. It's been going for over 20 years, and there's a lot of controversy over it, but people go out on their own to make contact.
I search only channels.
I was thinking about going out this weekend when you're away at the eclipse.
CSETI Chanel?
No, right. See, it's not there.
It doesn't
it's
seem
it's
like
a troll.
Yeah, maybe it is just a troll.
Somebody on Rabbit.
Ribbit? Fucking bastard. A Reddit troll.
You want me to
That's
get it?
too bad because they really should shut him down. Who's Serious Disclosure?
Well, that's the same guy, but it's a different channel. I found that one too.
Well, that channel still works.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So speaking of that, should I get into a couple local UFO sightings from people, listeners or friends that email in?
Sure. Is that going to count as a quote?
No.
No?
No, I have a quote as well.
And now another edition of the Grimerica Goodies by the people, for the people.
This is from Brian. He says, I want to share what was seen in Medicine Hat last night from my backyard. We did see the ISS and a full dozen of other satellites. So they're keeping track of the satellites.
Nice.
At about 11-ish, about 40 degrees south of the Big Dipper, a ball of light appeared traveling north towards the bucket of the Big Dipper. The light warmly got brighter, but not as bright as Jupiter. And as this light faded out, another one faded into view. Just the same way the first one did and a little to the right. It lasted just as long as the first. This one faded out and a third appeared. This one's location as it came into view completed the 3 points of a triangle. 3 of us witnessed this new configuration, or it was new to me. And he's saying, my report of CE5 events in Medicine Hat, May 28th, 2017. Cool indeed, and I had to share this with you.
Oh, he was CSETian too?
I think so.
Huh.
Well, he calls it a CE5, but...
Isn't that the same thing?
Not necessarily. You could get a CE5 without being in it.
You guys could meet up in, like, Brooks.
Yeah.
Talk about the middle of fucking nowhere.
Yeah, well, that's where I'd rather go where I went last time.
Why would you want to go to the same spot?
Why would you switch anything up when you had such an amazing night?
Well, you need to have variables.
Here's another one from a local.
Okay.
This is from Marcel. Hey, Graham, I had a sighting this morning, too. Called to my roof. 5 minutes after I saw what I report below. Today, 5:30 or 4:30 a.m.
Today?
Well, this was a few days ago, August 6th. It was 2 flying objects flying south. Oh, let me know if this rings a bell for you.
Don't point at me, you son of a bitch.
It was 2 flying objects flying south of Canyon Meadows in Calgary, Alberta. They looked approximately 12 to 20 feet in size and approximately 300 to 500 feet above the city. Shape was hard to make out and describe, but was bulky and not very aerodynamic. Metallic appearance. More like a cube with other parts sticking out from it. Dead silent. They flew parallel to each other, and the distance between both decreased slightly. I would say they went faster than a fighter jet. I had a similar sighting 1 year ago where the objects were light blue balls of light, similar and silent flight pattern. That was an exciting start of a day.
No kidding. What are you doing up so early?
Well, he was called to the roof of his house. Didn't Michael have a sighting like that? And he was sort of similar location, like southwest of Calgary, and didn't he see 2 boxes or didn't?
I don't know. Let us know, Michael.
Yeah.
Text us.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Oh,
yeah,
local boys.
Yeah. So thanks for the emails.
Fuck yeah. There was another local. There's a lot of local people. Sometimes it just seems weird. I wonder if it's because of the Google algos.
What do you mean by that?
That it displays your local or content first, so we're sneaking up the list when people search things.
Well, one of them wasn't from a listener.
Oh, it was just a friend?
Yeah.
Huh.
Acquaintance through the...
Acquaintance?
Acquaintance through the community.
Acquaintance. You want to try one more time?
No.
Okay. Oh, that's good. Thanks for writing in, guys. Thanks for seeing UFOs at times that I don't want to be awake.
You want to stick with that?
I was going to go with the Palladian. I wanted to watch or what was it? It wasn't the Palladian. That's the, did you watch any of the Perseus?
No. No.
No, I couldn't.
But I do want to go out this weekend because there's a new moon, nice and dark. It'll be before the eclipse, the last Saturday before the eclipse. What's so funny?
Whenever you say new moon now, it's going to be new moon, dark sky. It's going to be hard to get over that.
It'll be made into a jingle soon enough.
It already is a jingle.
Do you want the UFO quote then?
Yes. Acoustic or original?
Original.
Darren and Graham are going deep.
Oops, I didn't mean to do that.
It's a profound UFO quote of the week. Words to ponder and critique. It's a profound UFO quote of the week.
I thought this was kind of appropriate for Tristan. I don't know, because he does have quite a conspiratorial mind about corporations and the government and what we're up against. as far as health and wellness goes. This is the quote. I shall be very glad to accept appointment as a member of the NICAP.
What's an ICAP?
Board of Governors. Oh, you would have to ask me, eh?
You don't know?
I can't remember. It's terrible.
You thought I was just going to let you blast right through that?
Would you look it up for me quickly? And
How do you spell it?
NICAP.
Official NICAP website.
I should have tried to guess it.
International, National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena.
Right.
Come on, man. You got to know this shit, Dunlap.
Red Pill Junkie's going to be disappointed in me.
About fucking 10,000 people are fucking like throwing things at their iPod right now.
Anyways, he's glad to accept the appointment as a member of NICAP Board of Governors and be listed as a believer in the reality of UFOs, with the understanding that I shall resign if it appears at any time that your big group is being used to cover up for the top brass. I know there's a real need to break through the official Washington brush-off and get to the truth home to the people. There seems to be a great fear among the powers that be that the American people will panic if told the truth. How little they know and understand their countrymen. I feel that millions of our people already believe in the reality of the UFOs. And that's from Admiral M. Herbert B. Knowles, the U.S. Navy.
Herbert B. Knowles?
Yeah.
Herbert B. Knowles?
Yeah.
I like it. What else you got? Oh, wait, I was going to do this.
Okay, there we go. We had the new moon, dark sky, which is great. Had a plan camping, pitched a tent, went back there for the night. Crystal clear. Darkest night. So I had to read that meditation, did the singing bowl, and that shit starts happening. Pow, pow, pow. We started seeing flashbulbs. Okay. Streakers coming down. Graham Dunlop is he said star. Graham Dunlop is
Every time you say new moon now, it's going to trigger me.
Yeah, thanks.
I want a jingle like that.
Yeah, probably wouldn't be hard.
Probably not. Fuck. Someone could probably make a song out of me saying fuck.
Yeah.
You got any synchros?
No synchros.
Being unduly harsh.
No synchros. Oh, but what else do we want to talk about in this intro quickly here?
Well, we should talk about that.
If
you haven't already started watching, I'd mentioned to watch those Vax docs are out. If you want to get, it's the most info packed into an easy to digest format I've come across. And I think it's 7 days in a row starting, this will come out Friday. So starting yesterday.
And for people that are
I'll
scared,
just drop this Thursday.
And for people that are scared about the vaccine stuff, this is not the sort of extreme conspiracies, is it? It's pretty much it's based on science and stuff. And,
and it's kind of it's pretty neutral. I mean, it's slanted definitely to the anti side, but it's got a lot of pro people on there, and a lot of people that are still doing a lot of vaccines, just not all of them, or maybe they're slowing down the schedule. But it's the common thread they have is most of them see that there is, it's a little bit aggressive.
It's excessive.
Yeah, it's getting aggressive, if nothing else.
Right.
So you can check that out. The link's in the show notes. Like I say, maybe this will probably come out Thursday this week anyway, because I'm leaving Friday right after work, so it'll be edited. So I'll probably just drop it.
This is the last show before the eclipse, right?
Pressure on fucking Dunlap. Get the notes to me for Thursday. And Nap. Ooh, better text him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So last show before the eclipse, you're going down to see the eclipse. We had a lot of good feedback.
You guys are listening to this, I'm probably already in the USA, somewhere between here and the States. I'm going to stay in BC the first night.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because we're going to the amusement park, so I want to get there early. So I'm going to knock 4.5 hours of driving out first day.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. And hammer down 4,500 kilometers, so send some karma. They say it makes me a little nervous. We're going to, but there's 1 million people descending on Oregon, they're saying. So
really?
I mean, yeah, I'll be pretty well supplied. Like I got 2 of those, my big 18-liter jugs of water under the stairs for my thing. So I'm just going to throw them in the, I got so much room now. So I'll throw them in the back of the truck just to have them, just in case. And then before we leave Northern Washington, I think we'll just fill up the coolers because we're camping for a couple days right after anyway. So we need the food. So I think I'm just going to get it early just in case.
Are you going to take your bumper sticker off? Your free speech equals hate speech bumper sticker? Or free speech leaves room for hate speech bumper sticker?
Well, I don't have one.
I'm just kidding.
That would be
You
trouble.
leave your signs at home?
I'm going in the fucking Pacific Northwest. I will be minding my P's and Q's. I'll take the Grimerica magnet off my truck for the border.
Yeah, you should.
But then I'll put it back on.
Yeah.
So it'll be good.
So yeah, last show before the eclipse. That was a good episode, last episode with Irliana Samsara.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, we got a lot of great feedback. So
yeah,
that'd be good.
Feedback. Yeah. Some people are going to go meet her.
Shout out to
and
Michael's already on his way down. He left today.
Yeah.
He's heading down, so I'm sure a lot of people are getting ready for their eclipse travels. I know Adam's doing some driving and Grimsteak and James Cruz. I don't know if James Cruz is going to know Grimsteak and Adam, I think, are meeting up.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Lots of love being had at that one.
There's a lot of people meeting up. Oh, Jesus. Got to be a better way to say that. So yeah, it should be good. We're going to have Grimericans all over the place running to the eclipse. So send in your pics, send in your stories. You know, what we should do is maybe in September sometime, we can get all the people that view the eclipse together and we can have a show and just kind of get everyone's sort of take on it. Or everyone could leave their take on the voicemail, Grimerica, or speakpipe.com/Grimerica.
Yeah, or it might end up just being anticlimactic and it kind of leaves everybody's consciousness and that's it. It just twiddles out into nothing. Nobody might want to talk about it.
Yeah, that's probably what'll happen. Kind of like C-SETI.
So another way to spread the show, this is a challenge. We should actually make this a little marketing initiative.
Well, we could always, that's what I was going to say. If we can come up with a marketing initiative, we've got enough there's enough stuff in that Redbubble store. We could set someone up with a nice little package.
So here's the deal. If you're on a train or you're in a public place, you can, depending on what kind of podcast app you have, and I think this only works if you have an iPhone.
So half year out.
Yeah, but depending on what kind of podcast app you have, you can airdrop this to whoever's on your Wi-Fi network. I think that's how it works, right? So you could airdrop the show.
Yeah, and
to a bunch of strangers.
We did get this idea from No Agenda.
Yeah, it goes out.
We steal a lot of ideas from No Agenda.
Yeah.
Life for value, blah, blah, blah. But it's all
they were talking about dick pics, so you don't want to be,
well, they went from
that.
dick pics to their show.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And
they did mention the show.
It's a great idea. So, I mean, if you listen to No Agenda, share them too. But we're going to take that one from them. I think since we're nights, we're allowed.
So it shows up whoever's on your Wi-Fi network? Is that what shows up? Whoever's got airdrop activated?
Yeah, it's anyone who's got. So if you just kind of go to the episode, go to share like you normally would, and then just have your airdrop open. And anyone, if you're on everyone, then anyone who's got airdrop is just going to start popping up on there. So anyone who's got everyone, you just click that, and they don't have to accept it, but it's going to pop up with the logo, which is catchy as fuck, thanks to RPJ, and it's going to say it's a podcast. So you might catch some people, and I think it's relatively confrontation free. Hopefully you don't get beat up. If you get beat up, sorry. But you shouldn't. It's not a dick pic. Don't send dick pics. That might get you beat up.
Yeah.
But if you just airdrop, you're walking around, boom, you just have it ready to go, and as people come up, they're going to pop up on your screen. You just click, keep on walking.
Maybe try and catch some reactions, and then we'll talk about
now
those.
That's going to get you beat up. Yeah, don't tape reactions. That could be trouble. I was going to do a social media jangle, but maybe I'll save that now.
Yeah, save that one. Yeah, we could get into our support. How to support the show. Me do what?
The support.
No. You got it all ready to go. I'm not in an articulate way right now.
You're never in an articulate way. Anyway, guys, check out grimerica.ca/support. We do really need and cherish your support. There is a very few of you that do support the show. There's a few more now that we've started doing the bonus content for the people that do, but still not as much as we kind of expected.
We're calling it our black budget support feed, right?
Support feed. And yep.
Any donation gets you that.
Yeah, any donation. We've given it out to a bunch of people. Any subscription, any donation. But if you can, guys, if you do get some value for the show, we have put out, well over 200 of these things, and we don't see any end in sight, all for free. All the back catalogs for free, and it's always going to be that way. We're always going to give you guys your, 60 shows a year for free. 50 to 60 shows a year for free, and then you'll get some bonus content too if you support the show. And I mean, even without the bonus content, we do appreciate the support. There's a bunch of people that are supporting us before we were even doing that.
How many episodes are in there now? Probably 8 or 9. Yeah, and so 8. Yeah. Another one's going to go in when Darren gets back from his eclipse vacation.
Yeah, and then we got a couple lined up for October, September. So it should get going here, get off the ground. So yeah, if you can sign up for monthly, anything from $1 a month to $30 a month, guys. If you can, it really helps us around here. We want to do more things and start expanding. And, we got a bunch of ideas, and they, like everything in life, require a budget. So the more that can support the show, the more we can start doing interesting, fun things. Like we'll be able to get all this video of the eclipse. Hopefully that all works out. I'll have a bunch of video of the eclipse.
Mm-hmm.
And a bunch of other people will too, but yours will be Grimerica, kind of special. So, yeah, support the show if you can, guys. We really do appreciate it, and we really do need it. We took the vow of poverty. We're sticking to it.
Yeah, I think that's about it.
Review the show, share the show, spam, gram.
Yeah, send me your UFO sightings, your synchronicities, your trip reports, your lucid dreams, all that good stuff. We got a couple great episodes that I can incorporate some of those emails into for sure.
Yeah. Tell your friends about this motherfucker, guys. We really do appreciate it, and we really do appreciate the people who take the time to write in and support the show. I think that's about all we're going to do. We did go for almost 2 hours with Tristan. It's a good one. You guys should really enjoy it. Yeah. Enjoy the chat with Mr. Tristan Haggard.
Right on. Tonight we've got Tristan Haggard with us. He's from Primal Edge Health. His wife and Tristan have a coaching business, and they've written a book, the Ketogenic Edge. No, Ketonic. Oh my God. Ketogenic Edge. Ketogenic Edge cookbook. You guys have a podcast. It's a great podcast. I've been listening to it, and you kind of do it a little differently. You've got a YouTube like hangout type thing going on where you answer a bunch of questions. Anyways, I've been following this for a while and your show since I've been sort of getting deeper into health and wellness, and it's great to have you on to talk about all this stuff. Thanks.
Well, it's really great to be on, and I think it's cool. It's a real serendipity because I have most definitely heard you guys podcast before. I'm a huge fan of podcasts, of YouTube, of independent media in general. And yeah, I mean, you guys, I listened to Jay Dyer on your show recently. I've heard Randall Carlson come on several times. And I like how you guys direct the conversation and keep it flowing. So
right on,
I'm glad
buddy.
to be on.
Yeah, I like your show too. How you always keep things in context, right? Like you don't have a lot of black and white advice. You're like always stepping back and putting things into context. And I'm surprised at how going down this sort of more of a path towards like, better health and wellness. And I don't know if biohacking is the right word for it or not, but I realized that community overlaps quite a bit with the stuff that we talk about here. There's a couple commonalities there.
Well, it's actually, it's really funny, man. It's like, all right. So before I got really into this project that we're doing now, which, we call Primal Edge Health, we got a website and a YouTube channel. And like you're saying, we do a lot of live hangouts and, I don't know. I enjoy video content. I enjoy the format. But what's interesting is before this, just so much of my time and so much of my interest has gone into studying history, studying anthropology, politics, just the human condition in general. And that's actually kind of what led me in certain regards to really trying to take control of my health and, kind of take it into my own hands and make my body work for me rather than against me. Because, I mean, when you start looking into these things, you realize the deeper you go, the more you realize how really backwards the entire health structure of our society is, from the very basic stuff like diet, childhood vaccines with mercury, massive amounts of fluoride in the water, which is neurotoxic. And it's just, there's so much going on. There's an onslaught from so many different directions that is negatively affecting our health. And shoot, I mean, one of the most empowering things that we can do in this day and age is take control of our health. You know, I mean, I don't know. It kind of sounds ridiculous, but I don't know. It's just to me, like it seems like the biggest act of rebellion nowadays is just thriving, right? To be able to live and thrive and function well and have a healthy, happy life. Like that's what the whole, whatever you want to call it, political, spiritual system is it's all about, right? It's about that pressure that is, kind of creating this brilliant, this brilliant reaction from us as human beings as we take control of our health and try and steer this ship in a better direction. So,
yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head. I mean, it goes really deep, right? From the food that we sort of were advertised to buy in the grocery store, all the fake food that, it's not even real food. You hear about Subway's chicken being 50% real chicken when you think Subway was the healthy place to eat before, and then you get into like Bayer and Monsanto teaming up, and I mean, it goes on and on and on, right? And so I guess that is
some of this stuff. Yeah. No, it gets so ridiculous. Like the Bayer and Monsanto thing, I completely forgot about that because it sounds like some shit that would happen in a dream. Yeah. It doesn't even sound like something that should be happening in this reality. I mean, you got Bayer, formerly IG Farben. Everybody knows, well, not everybody, most people know about the history of IG Farben in Germany during World War II.
Let's break that
Bayer
down.
rose out of the ashes from. So we have Bayer and Monsanto now joining forces, literally the people that are poisoning our food with glyphosate, which is an antibiotic. And if anybody doesn't know what Roundup and glyphosate are, they are antibiotics that are routinely sprayed like it's frickin' candy all over the foods that we eat. And this chelates the soil and binds vital minerals that we need. So you've got glyphosate being sprayed on all the food. I mean, it's like
including Ben and Jerry's ice cream. Like Ben and Jerry's ice cream has glyphosate,
right? I mean, that used to be I used to eat two containers of that shit a night. I used to get stoned and just eat like 2 things of Ben and Jerry's, and then go to Burger King in the middle of the night and get Whopper Juniors for 99 cents. They have 99-cent Whopper Juniors. I'd get 2 Whopper Juniors with no pickles, and I'd ask them for extra mayonnaise, and I'd eat that shit, and then I'd go have dessert afterwards again. And I'd have like 2 rounds of freaking Ben and Jerry's. But yeah, man. I mean, it's like not only the foods that we're given, not only are they weaponized, but it's like when you really look at it, when you really look at the way that we're treating humans, it's kind of like an assembly line for cattle. I mean, we're literally being treated like cattle, fed a domesticated diet of grain, which is known to correlate with a decreased cranium size, decreased brain size. The whole thing is ridiculous, and to actually take control of our health can be overwhelming sometimes because then there's a freaking 1,000 different ways to go about it, right? So you get online, you're like, I'm going to start eating healthy, right? I'm going to start to lose some weight. And you get online and you find like the pointless diet battles. Everyone's talking about what's better. Is it paleo? Is it a keto diet? Is it vegan, raw vegan? You've got just so much madness out there. So what we did with our channel is just kind of try and share what we found works for us, and help people to, to take control. And, through the years of studying nutrition, diet, health, we've kind of just come to certain conclusions on what works right now. And that's what we share on the channel. We try not to be dogmatic or anything. We try to give a nice balanced, perspective on all these things and on healthy eating. But really my credo comes down to something like this, which I'll make up on the spot, but just trying to focus on nutrient-dense, whole, unrefined, organic foods can massively improve the health of 90% of people out there and will result in fat loss with most people not even trying. Mm-hmm. Now, it might not get them all the way to their goal. You might have to refine it a little bit more as you move along, but simply cutting out the junk food, cutting out the trigger foods, and cutting out this shit that we call food that we shove down our face, this corporate mass-produced, industrial waste diet, if we can substitute that with nutrient-dense, whole, unrefined foods that don't have a label with 50 ingredients, we can make ourselves feel and perform a lot better in many different ways. So that's kind of...
Is there any way that can include potato chips in Starbucks? Because I eat like pretty good everywhere else.
Yeah, you're a chip.
But I drink way too much coffee, and it's either Starbucks or Tim Hortons.
And chips.
When I have coffee at home, it's actually organic coffee that I grind at home, but I'm just never at home.
Yeah.
And then
that's a hard
eat.
thing, right? With
actually, I've been off the
all the
chips
time.
lately, but I've been trying to trade chips for nuts, but then I feel like I'm eating too many nuts.
But you'd rather eat too many nuts than too many potato chips, though, right?
Yeah, that's
right.
Probably true. Right now, I'm halfway through a big bag of Chicago
comes down
popcorn.
to one habit at a time, right? I think you've got a good thing there of trying to attack the chip habit first. Sometimes, I don't know, when I work with clients and stuff, I'd take a look at their day from start to finish, and then basically just kind of start pecking through from there. But the potato chips and the snacking, what usually helps with that is just making sure to have a damn big breakfast, right? So you get a big breakfast, right, when you wake up, which, because, I'm assuming you don't have a big breakfast.
I don't have
breakfast
coffee at all.
Yeah. So here's the thing that gets a lot of confusion. A lot of people get into the intermittent fasting, right? So they talk about, well, intermittent fasting, you fast for a longer period of time.
Yep.
And you'll kind of get on the outskirts of ketosis. You guys have been playing with that?
Yeah, I have been a little bit, yeah.
I don't play with anything.
So it could be a time restricted eating window can be really useful for losing body fat. It's not like magic, right? So by intermittent fasting, for those of you who aren't familiar, it's basically a strategy where you eat during a 16-hour window. Or I'm sorry, you eat during an 8-hour window and you fast for 16 hours. So say you eat breakfast at 9 o'clock, you'd have dinner at 5 o'clock. That's an 8-hour window, I think, if I can do basic math still. Usually can't.
You'd be rushing dinner.
Yeah, so you eat within that 8-hour window. Most people will end up restricting calories because the smaller eating window just allows less time to eat.
Exactly.
Also, you get, it's like it works. But, for your situation where you're saying that, like, you get the midday cravings for just, like, potato chips and shit like that.
Well, it's usually
one of the best things.
Yeah, I don't eat lunch usually either. I usually blow through breakfast and lunch, and then I'll have a big dinner.
And it's not to fast. Don't get them wrong here. It's not to fast. It's just for pure. Was it laziness, Darren, or what?
Busyness.
Convenience.
Yeah, that's what it is. Convenience.
That's the nice word for laziness, isn't it?
Could be. Yeah, that could be.
Sometimes. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, man. I mean, I was gonna say skewing those calories to earlier in the day can work magic for actually keeping the cravings down later in the day. But it sounds like you're already doing that. And one of the next things that I would look at would be just kind of the macronutrient composition of that first meal, and making sure that it's got a significant amount of protein and fat can really help to set the leptin levels, which is a satiety hormone, and drop the cortisol in the morning, which is pretty important. And you get a nice big breakfast with lots of protein and fat, that can usually give satiety for a real long time. Now, if it's going to last past dinner, I don't know. But yeah, that can be a strategy to kind of quell that crap.
Yeah, I've been trying the intermittent fasting a little bit, and I've been wanting to do like a 3-day fast, but it's tough, man. But it really does show it's really challenging mindfully, right? Because you're so used to spending time preparing food and eating, and I just want to go like 3 days with nothing but water,
drink juice or nothing,
just water, right? And it's very hard spiritually to just like be mindful enough to go, okay, like I'm craving food like crazy now. What do I do? Just breathe and stay in the moment or something, because it's unreal how, even if I'm not hungry, I'm supposed to be eating technically, like I feel like I'm supposed to be eating.
Why don't you start with like a juice cleanse?
No, I just want to do the 3-day water.
I think actually, all right, so in response to both of you, right, so like I think a 3-day water fast can be really powerful. But so all right, so most of the people that come to like my channel and stuff, a lot of them are looking for fat loss. I don't recommend like 3-day fast or fasting for fat loss, just because, I don't know, there's just something weird about it to me, right? It's like It's not a sustainable practice, first of all. If you want fat loss, it's about habit formation. So we need to replace the old shitty habits that make us fat with new habits that make us fit. Simply fasting away the food, simply fasting away the body fat doesn't really do much to change those habits. But the juice fast versus the water fast, I would wager that a water fast is actually easier than a juice fast. Especially after the second day, like after the end of the second day, a water fast can become relatively easy. But I mean, it's kind of all about context too, right? The more you do it, the easier it gets. But yeah, man, if you're thinking about a 3-day fast, I would say, first of all, it's 3-day fast is perfectly safe as long as when you eat after it, you don't shove a shitload of food down your mouth, right? So you want to actually taper the food back in so you don't shock your system. But yeah, a 3-day fast can be an amazing way to get a deep autophagy, to reset the immune system, and to really rearrange the habits. Because it's crazy how much, just how deeply ingrained our food and our dietary habits are, and how we use them to regulate emotions and neurochemistry concepts.
Exactly. That's kind of what I'm interested in, is how I use it as a crutch, really. I'm not being mindful, and I just want to eat, I'm not even paying attention to what I'm eating, right? I got to be mindful when I'm eating as well. So I did want to, speaking of wheat and grains, or you're saying ingrained, and I thought about the grains again, because you mentioned grains earlier. And today, so what about this sort of, I've been trying to go without grains for a while here. And then last week I kind of slipped, and I had a burger and a couple pizzas in a couple days, and I was really irritated, and I thought I was trying to figure out, why am I so irritated? But I really feel like because I went a while without it, that finally experiencing that gap and then eating the grains, I think it really affected my mood. But I can't figure out why are grains so bad. So we had a barbecue today at work, and there was a bunch of people standing around, and there was 4 of us just standing there eating burgers and stuff without buns. There was a whole bunch of us that weren't eating grains, and I realized at once we're all standing around trying. And I'm only just new to this type of thing. I'll tell you later.
Okay,
but why are grains so bad? Because they've been around in our, they should be part of our evolution, you'd think.
It's crazy, right? Now we start getting, when you look at this, why are grains so bad, and where did grains come from? Where did the domestication of grains start? This is the stuff that really fascinates me, because there is no answer. I like things to where there is no definite answer. I like mysteries. Right. I like life. So the whole grain thing to me is really fascinating. So I mentioned earlier, I mentioned in my possibly could be perceived as super negative rant on the nature of society and how we feed ourselves. I talked about how it's kind of like an assembly line for, I guess there's not an assembly line for cattle, but we're essentially being treated like cattle, like domesticated animals, right? It's like when you take a wolf, you take it out of the wild, its wild diet is going to be wild game. You take a wolf and you feed it kibble, and you get a dog eventually, supposedly. But that's kind of what's going on with humans. When you look at the fossil record and the size of our skulls, about 12,000 years ago, there was a massive decrease in the cranium size. And this is right in line with what we believe to be the dawn of agriculture, at least within this cultural epoch, right? Because who knows how many times we've already been through this same cycle of buried past civilization. Yeah. Right. It's like the cities we have now will be dust in a few hundred years. You ever see a car that's just been sitting out without, a coat of paint? That shit rusts away pretty dang fast. So anyways, when you look at like Göbekli Tepe and stuff like that, and some of these more recent discoveries, to me, it's really interesting, because when you listen to like Graham Hancock and some of these individuals talk about Göbekli Tepe, it seems to be kind of an educational site that had something to do with agriculture. And every single one of these massive megalithic cultures that rose up, over the past however many thousands of years, every single one of these has been based upon agriculture. Agriculture is required to sustain massive human populations in large valleys that are, depopulated of nature. So I don't know, there seems to be some kind of a natural inclination for us to create our own habitat, just like ants and bees make their hives. We kind of create our own natural habitat as well. But it seems like somewhere along the line, somebody learned somehow how to domesticate plants and animals and people also. And that's kind of what I see agriculture, grains, especially grains, right? Grains are like the symbol of agriculture. In order to have these as a viable food source, we need a large labor supply, right? So you need a lot of labor. So you need a common belief among the people. You're also going to need a ruling hierarchy to keep that labor going. You're also going to need organization of the storage of the food surplus and stuff like that. I mean, it's an entire organizational structure that rises up around agriculture. And it is a master-slave based society. Whether that's good or bad, or, you know, that's up to, I don't know, that's in the realm of the philosopher to decide. But to me, it just seems like this whole grain and agriculture thing is, I don't know, it's like, it's almost like it's the fruit in the Garden of Eden. You shall be as gods. You know, it's like the serpent is the most subtle beast of the field. And he tells Adam and Eve, you will be as gods. You know, and it's almost like, to me, I see agriculture as the fall from Eden. It's the fall from a state where everything, I mean, and I'm not some idealistic hippie who thinks that if you just run off into the freaking forest, you're going to live a beautiful life, right? I live in the mountains of Ecuador. I understand how difficult it actually is to be self-sustained. But I don't know, to me, it definitely seems like there's some sort of a thing that happened at some point with agriculture. And I don't know what, it's all speculation, but it seems like that was a major turning point in the development of our species and the development of so-called culture, right? Because culture, most human cultures, when they get big enough and powerful enough, require agriculture and are all based around that. Maybe
it's like a double-edged sword like that, right? Because even like the best of the sciences kind of need that someone to feed them.
You know, I mean, it's really, well, and when you think about it too, it's like, think about the natural world, right? Whatever that even means. You go out into the Amazon here. So I live in the Andes, which is a very temperate place. When you look at the history of this area and you read some of the chronicles from the Spanish when they first came, some amazing stories. But the Andes are very habitable, and the people were, the Spanish called them tame. When the Spanish came to Latin America, they came to Peru, they said that the Andean people, for the most part, were very tame, subdued, and gentle people. Now, these are in the valleys and mountains of the Andes where they've had, you know, flocks grazing. I mean, there were flocks of thousands of vicuñas, of hundreds of thousands of llamas, just roaming through these areas. None of these flocks are around anymore because of the many changes that have happened since then. But what I'm getting at is the civilization that existed in the Andean culture and in the so-called Inca Empire was agricultural based. And on the outskirts of the Inca Empire, there were many small tribes, right? So you'd have jungle tribes over the Cordillera de los Andes. On the other side of the Andes, you've got the Amazon. And in the Amazon and in parts of the Andes, when the Spanish first arrived, there were many cannibal tribes still, who were non-agricultural based tribes. They were more hunter-gatherer based. But there are also more rape and pillage based tribes who would just run into another valley, kill off all the men, take the women and children captive, and continue breeding the females in many of these tribes, and then eat the children and the females when they weren't viable anymore. So it's like what I'm getting at is like the more you go into the jungle, the further you get in there, the gnarlier it gets. And there are huge swaths of the Amazon right now that we have no idea what there is in there. Like we don't know what kind of people are there. And you know, the wilderness and the wild and the jungle, I mean, these places, they're harsh. You know, you go in there, you will get eaten alive. You step on the wrong ant and you can be in like an anaphylactic shock. You know, I mean, coming out of the jungle, coming out of the forests sure sounds like a good idea. when you look at it from that perspective of, cannibalistic tribes and with poison darts who will steal your women, rape them, and eat the children that come from their womb, I don't know. It's like the modern agricultural-based civilization. It's a little more gentle than that. But it's like, I don't know. Yeah, go for it.
So back to the grain then. So do you think that are you thinking that that it's still new in the evolution of us, and that's still like we're still evolving to use the grain properly as opposed to added chemicals and the way that we're modernly changing the grain? Like, a lot of people think that
I think the problem goes, I think that's a great way of leading into it, but I think the problem is more deep and subtle than that. You know what I'm saying? I think the problem is something a little bit more mysterious, because what I was getting at earlier is like, it really seems like a good idea, the whole agriculture thing, when you look at it on paper, right? It's like, oh, we don't need to keep moving around all the time. We don't need to chase these herds all around. We can just stay planted in this beautiful area here, and we can work together and have the same foods all the time, and it's all good. I think the thing with grains, I don't know, man. I mean, there's a million different ways we can look at this, but I think grains, basically, when you look at what they do to the body, getting back to your question that I never answered earlier, when you look at what they do to the body, they cause ruptures in the gut-brain barrier. So they basically, zonulin, which is released when you eat gluten, actually breaks open these little microvilli in our intestines and makes our gut permeable. So that permeability in the gut allows toxins to get through and go directly into our bloodstream and go through the blood-brain barrier and enter the brain. So when we eat gluten, we are opening up the blood-brain barrier temporarily, right? So it's only temporary. Only a few hours, that blood-brain barrier will be a little more open. But if you're doing that consistently, and you've got sodium fluoride in the water, and your water's chlorinated, and it's just that there's a manifold thing that's happening, and it's just there's so many levels of it that it's like, I don't know. You see what I'm getting at? It's almost overwhelmingly subtle,
stacked
but
up
also
against
it's very
you as
linked.
well. Yeah.
It's like, I mean, you're literally, when we eat grains, long story short, we're causing inflammation, we're destroying our gut-brain barrier, and because of the glyphosate load that we're taking in when we eat these grains as well, we're also depopulating beneficial gut bacteria in our gut. Now, grains also, monocrop and monoculture, also desertify land. So the side effects of agriculture are the desertification of the land that you live on, unless you do it correctly and use permaculture techniques and rotate your crops, which is not done. Right. So you get dust bowls. You get smaller cranium size. When you look at kind of there's a guy named Weston Price. You guys heard of him? Weston A. Price?
I don't think so.
Oh, you guys will like this. There's a book called Nutrition and Physical Degeneration. So this dude, Weston Price, he was, I think he actually started the American Dental Association. He was a dentist, and he recognized that most cultures that are not eating a standard Western diet, like the Hadza, just most indigenous cultures that have not had a grain-based Western diet introduced to them, have perfect teeth. Many of them didn't brush teeth. They didn't have fluoride Crest toothpaste, but they had perfectly straight teeth and a line, like their jaws lined up, and their bite is perfect. But when you look at the Western cultures, you look at, British people have notoriously terrible teeth, right? Like the British and the Scottish. You look at the palates are closing up in European culture. People get shorter when they're fed grains. Their palates don't develop as correctly. The bridge of the nose often gets smaller, and the nostrils often get smaller. So you have lots of evidence of degeneration physically in populations that are eating a standard processed Western diet. And these problems are not present in populations that are not eating that crap. So he postulated that the Western diet is creating a lot of these issues. And the Weston A. Price Foundation is still around to this day. And he's a very influential guy. But
wow, I'll link to that book in the show notes. I mean, it's so hard not to eat grain though. Like, especially, so I guess I wanted to ask you about that, but also sort of like a keto light. Like, Is it good to take a step towards keto where you're just sort of kicking out the grain and the junk food, and you're not necessarily getting yourself into ketosis?
Check it out, man. Like, so grains, you got 3 macronutrients, right? So you have protein, fat, and carbohydrate.
Okay.
Those are the 3 macronutrients, which means they're available in large quantities in foods. So a ketogenic diet, like you just mentioned, for the audience, you've never heard of it. A ketogenic diet is a diet that's low enough in carbohydrate that makes you burn fat. Now, fat's a very efficient fuel source, and the beauty of the human body is that it recognizes this and stores copious amounts of it. Look at the American population. There's freaking loads of it stored all over the continent. That is our preferred fuel source long-term that we store. So when you run out of carbohydrates, you start burning fat. Your liver has to break down the fatty acids into ketones. Creates ketones that most of your brain can run on and most of your body. Some parts of the brain need glucose, so your body will partition that glucose to other parts. So it'll your liver will actually save that glucose and feed the parts of the brain that need it. If we didn't have this state of ketosis and this thing called gluconeogenesis that allows ketosis, we wouldn't be able to survive a couple days without food. We'd have to have constant glucose coming in to maintain blood sugar levels. So a ketogenic diet is a diet that basically mimics fasting long term. Now, that sounds pretty crazy and undesirable when you say it like that, but many of the side effects of fasting in a ketogenic diet are profound. So when you cut the sugars out and you start burning fat for fuel, and we can talk about how to implement this and refine it later, but I want to put it in context for people so I'm not just throwing out a bunch of nonsense after ranting about why the world's so screwed up.
Yeah.
So you cut the carbs out and you start burning fat. Now, you're asking about like keto light, like how to transition to a lower grain diet or a lower carbohydrate diet. Now, to cut out grains, you don't even have to eat a low carb diet. So like you guys, I mean, if you just wanted to take one step at a time towards, becoming a little bit more healthy, a little more vibrant, or, shedding some extra body fat, cutting out grains can be a really good step in kind of cleaning up the diet. Now, you don't necessarily have to go like full keto to get benefits, right? I mean, just cutting out the inflammatory things like the wheat, the soy, and the corn, and avoiding those products can really improve health. Now, it sounds overwhelming because like bread and pasta and all these things are all over the place, but there are a lot of really viable substitutes that you can use. Like, I mean, zucchini pasta is one of those like kind of paleo things a lot of people are into. And if it's done right, it can be really good. But even that, even if you don't want to fully cut out all grains, just cutting out the wheat and most of the, avoiding wheat, avoiding soy, avoiding corn, and avoiding these mass-produced crap foods and going for like stuff like quinoa, right? Or spelt. Just some of these more ancient grains that are not so refined, that are not so sprayed with glyphosate and toxic. That's a big step right there. But you don't have to go like super low carb, right? So if you want to clean up the diet and get rid of the wheat and stuff like that, I mean, just substituting yucca, right? You guys know what yucca is, or yucca?
Yeah,
whatever you call it there. Yeah,
no, I didn't know what
substituting that or sweet potatoes, right? So it's like have sweet potatoes instead. Yeah, it's like yams.
I've
yams
cut out
fantastic.
white potatoes, actually, because I noticed that they make me tired. And I cut out white rice. But I still eat a lot of wild rice. I just cut out white rice.
You like the wild rice?
Yeah, and I noticed it doesn't make me feel sleepy after like the white rice does.
Now, when you feel sleepy after a meal, it usually means that you got some blood sugar going up and down, right? So you get that blood sugar spike, and then the insulin comes in, clears it out, and then we can get kind of depleted. So that insulin resistance that we get from eating a lot of grains, from eating a lot of refined processed carbohydrates, can make it more likely that we have those crashes. But just losing a little bit of body fat and kind of cleaning up the diet a bit can sometimes make it so that we can actually tolerate foods that we couldn't handle in the past, right? Like I have no problem eating wheat and stuff like that occasionally. I prefer not to eat it. To be honest, if I have one meal with wheat, I don't feel any negative side effects the next day. You know what I'm saying? But I know if I continue eating at the French bakery, which my actual French friend Roman runs and makes the most amazing. I know if I eat that shit all the time, I'm going to get fat and I'm going to get lazy and eventually I'm going to feel shitty. Right. But it's like a slow slide into it. So yeah, I mean, it's just basic habit formation of like, you know, pulling the wheat and the grains out. And shoot, I mean, even like having more fruits and vegetables rather than the wheat and the grains can be a really big step for people. Of course, what I do is like a very low carbohydrate diet that's based around meats. It's basically, my diet is based around proteins, fats, and vegetables, right? So I eat, like this morning, for instance, I had an omelet, big old avocado, a bunch of butter, and just a bunch of greens and veggies in the omelet. You know, so those are the kind of meals that I eat. Very low in carbohydrate, higher in protein and fats. Mm-hmm. And that allows me to maintain stable blood sugar, so you don't get that crash right after a meal, right? It's like if I eat Ben and Jerry's, I will feel tired afterwards. But if I eat, you know, some like a 3-cheese egg omelet with some sardines and avocado in the morning, I'll feel fantastic all day, and I won't get hungry much at all throughout the day. So, you know, it's just kind of learning how to leverage and get the most out of what we put into our bodies, right? Like having a purpose for the foods that we eat and slowly transitioning into a lifestyle where everything we eat has an intention, has a purpose, and makes us feel good. I don't know. That's kind of my goal, right? To make everything that I eat worth eating in the long run.
And to know what it did to you would be cool too, you know, kind of like you can with your different strains of weed. Like, right on, man, I got I know I got to go do a test later, so I got to have an apple, an orange, and half a banana.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? It really, once you start refining it, and it's one step at a time, it's best not to just jump into things and go crazy extreme with diets. You know, just pulling out the excess, pulling out the crap, the you know, prepackaged shit that's got 100,000 ingredients on it, just removing that and eating unrefined foods whenever possible. It would just feel better and function better, and you get to know your body more, right? But if we're constantly just eating whatever's in front of us, then it's really hard to tell what the hell is doing what in our body.
Yeah.
Right? Exactly. I mean, it's like people who,
that's what I've been trying to do.
Spackle at the wall.
That's what I've been trying to do, is just not have garbage in the house. Because if I have stuff in the house, if I have Ritz crackers in the house, I'm going to be fucking binging on Ritz crackers. So I try and keep it like seriously every week, just vegetables, meat, and some gluten-free bread. Now
I can even get into the soup crackers. My wife was like, get crackers for the soup. And then like the other day I sat in the kitchen and crushed a whole pack of those crackers.
Yeah. Well, it's the thing is that they're foods that we have. They're hyper palatable. They're super delicious, right? I mean, Ben and Jerry's and Burger King, they taste great. You know, these things. Now, maybe not Burger King, but when I was 19, I thought it tasted good. But yeah, I mean, they're hyper palatable foods. They're very high in calories. They're high in both fat and carbohydrates, and they're just low in nutrition. So it's like you eat a lot of calories, but you don't get a lot of bang for your buck. Whereas if you just make those calories count, and instead of keeping the Ritz crackers and the Ben and Jerry's and the Krispy Kreme donuts on hand, instead if you keep things like salmon, like wild caught salmon, like grass-fed beef, like lamb shanks, just having shitloads of eggs around all the time, having a dozen hard-boiled eggs at any given time in your fridge that you can just reach in and grab. I think having those things around and focusing on keeping nutrient-dense, good foods that make you feel good, that make you perform well, and that don't make you sleep like shit or feel like shit all day, having those foods around and focusing on those instead of the shit can be just really, really helpful.
That's a great idea. Yeah. So
sometimes it's like, yeah, go for it.
Well, no, I just wanted to mention. I was talking to another guy at work today about keto diets and stuff, and he mentioned Atkins and how that like, you know, is there a difference between Atkins and keto diets, and did the Atkins guy really pass away from a heart attack, or is that sort of I didn't really think to ask you that until now, but
that's a good question for sure. Yeah, no, the diet wars, right? The vegans versus the heretics, the infidels. Yeah, the paleo infidels. So all right, check it out. I'm one of those subhumans that believes it's not bad to eat meat. So if you're a vegan, get over it. What are we talking about?
Oh, the Atkins
Atkins
guy, yeah.
Yeah. All right, so like the vegans love to say, "Oh, Atkins choked on his own cholesterol and died in a pool of fat and butter." No, the Atkins, as far as I know, the Atkins guy hit his head and died of trauma to his head.
No
now,
way.
Maybe he was fat. Maybe I don't know. Whatever. But the difference between Atkins and keto is this. So ketogenic diet, very low in carbohydrates. Atkins, also very low in carbohydrates. What Atkins does, though, and it's clever and it works for a lot of people. What Atkins does, they tell you to cut carbs pretty low in the beginning, almost zero carb, and cut fat very low, which makes it so you burn a lot of body fat and lose a lot of weight, but it's kind of unsustainable for a lot of people. So Atkins is essentially super high protein, not really focusing on getting a lot of fats in, which keto is not necessarily about either. But the difference between a ketogenic diet and Atkins is essentially Atkins is like just eat a shitload of protein at the expense of other macros, and you'll be full and you'll lose weight and you'll usually feel better because you're cutting out all the carbs.
Mm-hmm.
So Atkins is more like eat protein and some veggies, and then there's certain adjustments that you make, and then after you're done with Atkins, you like taper your carbs back up to 50 grams and then 100 grams a day or something like that.
Well, I think
that's Atkins.
I think that's what happened is this guy and other people have seen these films about the meat industry, right? And these vegans sort of pushing. And I'm not against veganism or whatever. I mean, I was a pescatarian for a couple of years when my dad was sick. Like I've tried some of that in the past as well, and I would think about going back to that at some point as well. But I think they're demonizing the saturated fats and they're demonizing the healthy fats as well, right? Which is part of the problem.
Absolutely.
So I mean,
you've seen saturated fats. We've seen saturated fats demonized for decades now, right? You have Ansel Keys in the 1970s colluding with the American Heart Association, these other groups. Just straight up demonizing saturated fats is straight up to cover for the damage that processed and refined sugar is doing. So when you actually kind of look at the history of the demonization of saturated fats, absurd. This one guy, Ansel Keys, basically bullied the world into believing that saturated fat is causing heart disease.
And that lasted for decades. Actually, it's still people are still talking about it. That article that came out, I wanted to hear your take on that. And, about the coconut oil thing as well, right? I mean, it's still fucking happening. They're still referencing all this old bullshit. It's unbelievable.
Are we going to talk about coconut? Because I've been looking for an excuse to use some of that new JP Sears thing. Yeah, that's good.
Look, coconut oil, it's not like magical, but it ain't bad. And saturated fats in general are one of the most safe foods to eat. But it's all about context. If you eat a lot of saturated fat with a lot of refined sugar, right, and you're just eating the standard American diet, then you're going to get screwed up and inflamed and fat. But in the context of a lower carbohydrate intake, which when you think about historically, right, we go through feast-famine cycles. So in nature, foods are available seasonally. So you got carbs that are available in long light cycles. They're not all winter long going to go walk outside and pick a watermelon. So we're used to having periods of high carb intake and then super low carb intake in winters and stuff like that. So I mean, we're primed for it, right? We're used to having feast famine cycles. Today, we don't have that. We can go down to 7-Eleven and buy 10 Quest bars because they're healthy and they're high in protein and low in carbs. We can eat 10 of those, go home, smoke a couple bong rips, walk back to 7-Eleven at 3 a.m. in the morning, maybe buy some crack on the way there from your local drug dealer. And it's just like you could just over and over again fill up with hyper palatable foods. And I don't know, it's ridiculous. So long term, I think we need to balance this out. We need to balance out our feast with a little bit of famine every now and then. And we can do that without having to go super harsh and starve ourselves and do straight up fasting. We can do that just through simple carbohydrate restriction seasonally. And I think a ketogenic diet can be a really effective way, kind of reset the metabolism, reset the mind, reset the body. And man, I'm not sure how deep you guys want to go into some of this stuff, but some of the mechanisms of the ketogenic diet are really fantastic. Like
Yeah, sure. Go deeper, and then talk. Go deeper and talk about your book, and then talk about your book a little bit as well in there. Make sure you plug that.
All right, cool. So check it out. So low carbohydrate diet, it's a ketogenic diet, a ketogenic state. It's very neuroprotective. So this diet was actually discovered for epileptic children in the 1920s. There were no drugs that would keep seizures away from these kids, and they found out that administering a diet that was really low in carbs was very beneficial for these kids who would keep their epilepsy away. Now, a ketogenic diet for these kids was about 80% fat. It was a high-fat diet. So they needed to get enough protein in to where they could still maintain their lean muscle mass because these are growing children. And they needed to keep their carbohydrates low, and they needed to keep their fat really high so that they could still grow and not be, catabolic and wither away. Now, the reason the ketogenic diet seems to work so well for epilepsy is because its neuroprotective effects. So ketones are signaling molecules, not just energy substrate. So you burn ketones for energy, but also they signal certain gene expressions. These gene expressions can include, certain things so one thing that happens in the brain is you have excitatory or inhibitory neurotransmitters. So you know about like glutamate, right? Like MSG, monosodium glutamate. MSG was like really demonized for a long time. The Chinese food, So MSG is excitatory. It's like fries your brain out. So with these excitatory neurotransmitters, serotonin very excitatory as well, and is not. I don't want to get into that, but serotonin can be very excitatory as well. But a ketogenic diet and ketones actually promote the production of GABA, G-A-B-A. And GABA, the Russians actually developed a drug that is GABA that can cross the blood-brain barrier. And the drug is called phenibut. You guys ever heard of that stuff?
I have heard about it. I just heard about it from a friend at a wedding the other day. And I was just going to ask you if GABA if phenibut was the precursor to GABA or something like that. Yeah,
there you go. So GABA, phenibut it's like a twisted version of GABA, right? So phenibut's like, you know how Shulgin took mescaline and made all those analogs. The same happens in Russia and pharmaceutical companies and stuff like that. So the Russians developed this GABA, like an analog, that would cross the blood-brain barrier. But what GABA does is it's very inhibitory. Now that sounds like, I don't know, it sounds kind of negative almost. But what it does is it's actually soothing and it is neuroprotective. So it protects your brain from the excitation that these other neurotransmitters can, that can cause damage, basically. So people who go on a ketogenic diet or people who fast for an extended period of time usually end up reporting that they feel much calmer, that they feel much less inclined to like flip out over little things, and that they just feel a little bit more balanced. To me, that's kind of why I gravitated towards keto, right? So you talked about vegan stuff earlier. I went through a period where I was doing like a raw vegan diet. I mean, I had my mercury fillings removed 9 years ago, and after that, before and after that, I had lots of health issues, right? So I had a lot of things that I was working through, and I've been through a lot of different styles of eating, but the one that ended up sticking for me was the ketogenic diet, and the main reason I like it is just because it makes my brain feel. I mean, I like being able to go a few hours without thinking about food. I like being able to wake up in the morning, have a nice meal, and not have to think about food for the whole rest of the day if I need to. And that's kind of what keto allows, and that's kind of why I like it.
Would you consider phenibut mind altering?
Yeah, no, phenibut's weird. I don't recommend taking it regularly, because you can develop a tolerance and you can develop
an addiction to it as well, or
I guess, like a psychological addiction, like dependence, right? It's relatively safe, but I don't know. I just prefer to make my own GABA, right? I have a bottle of phenibut here because I wanted to try it.
Yeah,
I found that it's kind of noticeable if you're feeling stressed, and it helps you sleep really deep. The phenibut. But if you use it more than like 2 days in a row, then you can start to get a little bit like hangover type feelings and stuff like that. So I'm not really into it.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's relatively safe. Like once or twice a week, you shouldn't have any problems.
So how important is like geographical genetics? Like, for example, like let's say if I'm from, my genetics are from, Northern Europe or the UK or something, or going back to that, compared to somebody like living where you are now.
Somebody like who?
Because the carbs, because don't we handle carbs and other things differently, and our gut biome requirements are different depending on our genetics? Like how much does that play a role, do you think?
For sure. No, there definitely seems to be a genetic proclivity of some people to handle more carbohydrates. It seems like populations that live closer to the equator, so like, blacks and South Americans, stuff like that, seem to do better on a high carbohydrate intake. But I mean, it's all about context, right? So you see a lot of people, people of African descent, they'll move to really cold areas where they don't have a lot of sunshine. And the melanin, they store a lot of melanin, but at the same time, I mean, the melanin is there and their skin is dark because they are meant to be, we are all meant to be connected to the sun and to the earth. So you will see you look at populations that move away from where they naturally live, and some people do tend to get health issues. And I think the carbohydrate thing, I haven't seen any studies on this or really got deep into the science. And I don't worship science either, right? It's like just because some fucking study says something doesn't mean it's the ultimate truth or the word of God. It's like I don't. Science is not a deity. Science is a process. But it seems like the science kind of shows that there are genetic proclivities towards certain macronutrients. Like when you look at the Eskimo populations, right? Mm-hmm. So these individuals actually have some gene alleles. They actually have some gene polymorphisms that make it so that they are more resistant to ketosis, which is actually very interesting because they're a population that's often referenced as the model low carbohydrate diet, right? Because they're eating whale blubber, seal meat, fermenting birds for months and eating that. They're basically eating a zero carbohydrate diet, but they have an adaptation that makes them more prone to having a constant supply of blood glucose and not getting into deep ketosis. So there are a lot of these little genetic variations that seem to have that seem to come into play, but I don't know. I mean, I mentioned, people from Africa, like black populations moving away from the equator into areas that are, further away from the sun and having health issues. But also when you look at you would almost expect African people to not do well on a ketogenic diet, but it doesn't seem to flesh out that way, right? There's the Hadza who live off of mainly meat and milk and what's it called? And blood, live blood from their cattle because they don't want to kill their cattle all the time because they live in the Namibian desert. So there are many populations that eat low carbohydrate naturally from, different genetic populations and different genetic expressions in the human experience. But I think it's a universal thing that we should all be able to adapt to and get into ketosis regularly and go through periods of carbohydrate restriction. So we can all do it. Maybe some of us can do it better than others. Maybe, and this definitely hasn't been proven at all, but maybe Europeans are more inclined to a ketogenic diet because of the harsh conditions that we lived in, which were, depleted of, we wouldn't have carbohydrates available all year round. So, I don't know. It's kind of like a big maybe. It's like a yes, but maybe not.
Yeah.
How often do they drink the blood?
When they're thirsty.
No, when you're hungry.
Not as often as Jeff Bezos.
Is that the guy who owns Amazon?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the Amazon.com guy.
That's why he's got the googly eye.
Bezos. I think he's about to be the richest man in the world.
He is. He overtook Bill Gates, yeah. And then Amazon's going to buy Netflix. I'm predicting Amazon will buy Netflix within the next 3 years. And then they'll be fucking most of them. Because I think Netflix is always running $20 billion in debt.
No, I really feel like it's getting dystopian out there. Like the YouTube clampdown, the Twitter clampdown, and then all this stuff.
I didn't know you could live off blood. So we can go
Great.
28
Yeah,
days
they
without
actually
food.
they don't want to kill their cattle, so they'll cut them open, and then the wounds will heal. So they'll drink some of the blood. They'll get the salt from the blood, the iron from the blood. There's a lot of things in there, and they'll also drink milk and eat some meats and stuff too, and honey. When they find honey, they gorge on it. That's the thing about carbohydrates, right? It's like they're not available all the time, but when you find the sweets, you eat the sweets. So it's like we get a jar of honey. And naturally, we want to eat the whole damn thing, right? Like you get a loaf of sweet bread, we want to eat the whole thing because in nature, they don't last long, right? Like the neighboring tribe is going to come over and pick that tree dry if you don't get it right now. You know, in Ecuador, actually, the culture here in Ecuador, it's crazy. And people always laugh about like, why do they, you know, they'll eat green bananas or they'll pick fruit before it's even ripe. And the figs, they'll pick when they're still green. And then why are they doing this? The former president of Ecuador wrote a book, and he talked about how his theories on it and how, you know, I mean, just not so long ago, they were having to, you know, basically fight for these supplies, and they were used to having to harvest things early because if they didn't harvest it, their neighbor's going to harvest it early. So yeah, I mean, I forget what the hell I'm talking about.
Me too. We're talking about eating blood.
Eating blood? No, I don't know. I don't know much about that. That was just an example. I don't know how often they do it, but when they get honey, they eat a bunch of it. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
yeah, I love me some honey.
Most of these cultures, they don't intentionally restrict carbohydrates. The environment does it for them.
Sometimes
but we've
if
created
I'm
an
tired
environment.
at night, I'll just go have a teaspoon of honey. Boom.
Well, that explains why it's so addictive, carbs, right?
Oh,
and
so
all that.
good.
I mean, I just, you know, have some toast, and I just want to keep eating toast.
Nathan brought me honey from New Zealand. Oh, this is good. Clover honey.
Yeah.
Delicious.
So
honey is an amazing food. I don't think there's anything actually inherently wrong with carbohydrates themselves. I think it's the types of carbs, how they're processed, how they're treated, and how they're grown that makes them either beneficial or, you know, toxic in our body.
Yeah,
That's like bread too.
You know, like honey, like wild honey is an amazing food. I like, for the most part, I stay on a ketogenic diet year round, but I'll go a couple months out of the year usually when there's a big, nice honey harvest here locally. I'll get some of this beautiful Andean honey, and I'll go nuts on it for a few days or for a week.
Is that like all bets are off week or just honey? Is that like honey week? You're fucking having burgers and ribs and anything goes on
No,
honey.
you know, I'm weird, man. I'm like, I've after years of doing this, after kind of years of just like refining my diet, I'm not so into like burgers and pizza and stuff like anymore, and then unless it's quality. So I've always been an obnoxious food snob, like just freaking like I remember my parents would get milk from Costco, and I pissed my dad off all through high school because he'd bring the milk home, and half the time it would have this certain smell and taste that I found so off-putting. It was just off. But anyways, yeah, I've always been super obnoxiously picky. So when I do that, when I eat honey, what I end up doing is I'll do like flax pancakes or something like that. You know, like I'll do grain-free. What's that, babe? we basically, I eat keto foods with less fat, and then I eat more honey. That's what I do. Cause I've got like certain staple foods that I like, you know, and I rotate them, and there's certain foods that and I'll go through phases of like eating the same breakfast for months, and then I'll change it.
Yeah.
But, I'll usually end up eating the same foods that I normally eat, but removing, like, I won't add a bunch of butter, or like I won't add coconut oil. I won't add fat for energy. I'll just eat carbs instead. And those carbs are usually just from honey. And then after about a week, I get sick of it and I want to go back to keto because I feel better on keto.
Well, and you're not a cheater either, right? You don't do your cheat days or anything like that. Like you're pretty much like you're on that, and you don't, there's no point in doing your little cheat day. I mean, I've heard you mention that a few times, and it kind of makes sense to me.
It's that's my self-talk though. All right. So here it is. Like I don't eat keto all the time. I enjoy eating keto most of the time. I don't do cheat days where it's like, oh, fuck it, I'm going to eat whatever is, you know, I don't do cheat days because, all right, so like when I was in high school, I like experimented with like more hardcore drugs, right? Like I did, like would take like painkillers and stuff, like, you know, tried coke and shit like that. I don't do those things anymore. But like, it's not like the weekend comes and I'm going to have a cheat day and go, buy an 8-ball and buy some Valium and an 8-ball. It's like, I'm not going to do that. It's just not a part of the system anymore. So it's like, I'll eat some carbs. I'll eat some things that are off plan. I might go to town every once in a while, and there's a restaurant in town that they make a really good, this fajitas, and they'll put pineapple and like they'll cook the meat and pineapple and stuff like that. Occasionally, I'll have some more carbohydrates from foods like that, but I don't do cheat days because I don't want to cheat myself, right? It's like I don't do cheat days on my wife or on my job, right? Like I don't do cheat days on like trying my spiritual progress.
You don't do cheat days at work?
Days at work, right? It's like, well, can you do? I used to do cheat days at work.
I think that's like when you call in sick and then you go swimming.
Yeah.
I used to have this job when I was second job I ever got. I worked at a hotel, and they gave me a van. They gave me a minivan, a white shirt with gold buttons and shoulder pads, and a walkie-talkie. And my house was like 3 blocks away, and my job was a shuttle driver and a bellman. So I would like drive people from this nice hotel. I'd like drive them to places around Carlsbad, California, like drop them off at restaurants and stuff, and then just cruise around in this van. But at that job, I used to have cheat days. I used to go home and lay in my bed, and I'd have my radio there. And in case they called me from work, which was 2 blocks away, then I'd take the van and I'd drive back to the property of the hotel and act like I was there the whole time. That was my cheat day.
That's a cheat day for sure.
That sounds
But yeah, it's like cheat days with diet. I think it's a silly thing to set ourselves up with, right? It's like if the diet should be there to support our life. The diet should be there to support what we want to do in every other part of our life. The diet shouldn't be there as an idol. The diet shouldn't be there as a religion, as a deity, as a false god.
A crutch.
The diet's there. Exactly, right? Or like an identity thing. Like people love that, especially now, right? With people so fractured. The family unit's kind of been broken down, and the internet like allows people to create these little cults. So one of the things that annoys the shit out of me, though, is people turning this whole diet thing into a religion. So I don't religiously eat keto and think that, well, I will eat keto the rest of my life. This is the way and the truth and the light. No, that's not how I look at it. But for now, it works. And I don't know. I've come to a place where I just try and treat the vessel as well as I can and keep it running as optimally as possible. And, the diet's there to support that.
Yeah.
So I guess like the ketogenic diet and the vegan diet would be like arch enemies in most cases.
Yes. Yes.
Like that.
It's like, yeah, it's like if you're walking down the street and you see a vegan, you got to jump on them with a shot collar.
You just have to. Yeah, you have to. Otherwise, you get a reputation as being soft.
It's like in prison, right? It's like if you see a vegan, you got to shank them. It's like the Norteños and the Sureños.
Ideally with a sharpened rib bone.
Yes, sharpened rib bone. See, that try and come at you with like a piece of celery or something, but that can't do shit.
So what about some of these?
Bunch of pissed off vegans right now. I'd like before.
I got nothing wrong with veganism. Like it's just when people, if you're a vegan, it's all good. I used to eat a vegan diet. I didn't identify as I wasn't veganer than thou. But yeah, I got no problem with vegans. I'm just joking about that stuff. But there is like kind of a big divide, right? Of like if you look at YouTube shit, which is I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of like
Trolls.
My diet can beat up your diet.
Yeah.
My money's on keto.
What were you going to say there, Dan?
Well, I want to get into keto, I think.
Oh, you want to start it a bit? Yeah.
Well, if not me, I know my wife's definitely showing some interest in it. And I know Adam Loyal really liked it.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool. I think it's a good idea, and I think it's something that's really beneficial to try, right? Like even if you're not going to do it long term, it's something that one should try for at least a couple months. And even if it doesn't end up being something that you enjoy, it's a way to exert your will and actually, it's a really good exercise in willpower, right? Of actually taking control of our habits, rearranging our relationship with food, And whatever happens on the other end, whether you end up saying, screw it, that Tristan guy's an idiot, I'm going to be a vegan, or, whatever happens in the end, it's like, it's a good experience, right? It's just taking control of our habits, taking control of our life, taking control of our automatic reactions and our, when we just reach for the food. It can be super beneficial. I want to send you, I got your email, so I'm going to email you. First of all, I'll send you guys both copies of our book.
I've already got the book, so yeah.
Oh, sick.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
I'll also
send you. Right on. Well, you can buy more if you want to. I'll also send you some. I'll send you guys like a sample meal plan or like an example, like a diet that I would give to somebody, and you can see if it helps.
Yeah, I'm thinking of trying it out. I'd definitely try it out.
I'll do it with you.
For a couple. I'm going to do it with my wife.
Okay, I'm fine.
You cheater. You're a cheater. I've seen you twice on cheat day. I can't have you dragging me down. It's okay, Darren. It's cheat day.
No, but you gotta cook. You gotta cook on your own, right? Like it's hard.
Cook on my own
I know,
day.
But that's what's difficult. I'm really trying to do all the cooking myself now, and it's a lot of fucking extra time for me, right? It's cooking and cleaning and the prep.
Is every meal that we eat is cooked
because you can't go out and do it. You can't go out and be keto in a way. Like
we do get a lasagna once in a while.
Well, you can. So you can go out and eat keto, but it's a little harder. Preparing your own food. Was that Graham that was saying you do your own food?
I do my own food.
Well,
Graham eats out like 90% of the time.
No. I eat at home all the time. Lately. Yeah.
I don't eat out. Like we eat like I would say 90% of our grocery list is foods that you're preparing or not preparing, but it's fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, or meat.
Yeah.
We do a lot of bread and stuff. We try and get the sourdough bread. We do our own bread sometimes, which is just a couple ingredients really. And
there's so much you can do with lower carb ingredients. You can do coconut flour stuff and almond flour. You can have some breads and still enjoy some of these bready foods, but just non-grain based too.
Yeah.
And you can
I really like baking.
Diet.
That's my biggest fear, I think, is that I like to bake all these things and cook all these things and taking
my wife
flour out of your arsenal was a big one.
No, but you don't even take it out. You just get rid of the wheat flour and you buy coconut flour, and you get coconut flour and almond flour. And those two things with coconut flour and almond flour and practice, you can make some amazing stuff. If you go on our Instagram, which we don't update it that much, we got a lot of food pictures on there. We've got there's one of a blackberry pie that my wife made, which was relatively low in carbs too, but probably not best for just starting out on a low carb diet, because when you just start out, you do have cravings. But she made this low carb berry pie, and she makes these muffins that are there's a recipe on our website on primaledgehealth.com. It's basically it's broccoli muffins. So it sounds disgusting, but these muffins, they're made with coconut flour, eggs, spices, and you can use cheese and jalapenos and stuff like that. But then you also use broccoli, and you food process the broccoli, and it has this amazing sweetness to it too that you don't even expect, and they taste great, and you wouldn't know that they were healthy. It's it takes practice, it takes time, it takes energy, and it takes a lot of effort. But in the end, it's not even in the end. After a few days, most people who just through cutting out grains, cutting out refined carbohydrates and refined processed foods, they feel amazing. They feel better. So I think it's a great idea.
I'm a great cook too, so I'm going to take
you'll be good at it. So hey,
if you send the meal plan over, then I'm going to wait till summer's over, because and then when we get into fall or early winter, then I'll hammer down and try it for 2 months.
Okay,
and then maybe I can end up being a success story.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, well, dude, give it at least 8 weeks when you try it. If you hate it after 8 weeks, you hate it. Now, one of the most important things, though, when you're doing a ketogenic diet, first of all, you got to make sure you're getting sufficient. Yeah. Well, now the snacking, it all depends on the context, right? If fat loss is the goal, then we want to not snack, but it's all about context. So keto usually makes it really easy not to snack, because you're just not hungry in between meals because you have stable blood sugar all day. So that's a benefit of it too. But yeah, macadamia nuts, almonds, walnuts, hazelnuts, pumpkin seeds. Like my wife made these. She's right here. You want to say hi?
Hey.
Hey.
So Jessica made.
So nuts are all game on. That's cool.
No, not all. I don't think all nuts.
Well, I mean, like cashews can be a little sweeter. You want to keep your carbohydrates below 30 grams net carbs per day, especially when you're starting out. So nuts, for the most part, are really low in carbs. Some of them are sweeter. Protein, you want to make sure you're getting sufficient protein. Usually that's like 1.6 grams per kilogram of your body weight or your lean body weight. So like your fat-free mass. And then fats will make up the rest of the diet. Now, if fat loss is the goal, you don't need to guzzle down hundreds of grams of fat every day. Like, a ketogenic diet doesn't need to be about just throwing butter down the hatch. And unfortunately, that's what some of the marketers have made it look like. Like, it's just you eat sticks of butter and you lose weight. It's not that simple. Fat is the energy source, right? So if you're doing keto for fat loss, part of that energy that you're using, you want it to come from body fat. So in the beginning, it's fine to eat way more fats than you need if you're just getting adapted to it, right? Because when you cut out the sugar, you cut out the carbs, your body's like, what the hell are you doing to me, right? Like I thought it was summer always. What the hell are you doing to me right now? And it revolts. It tells you, give me the freaking carbs. Give me something sweet. After about a day or two, you deplete your glycogen stores. 2 or 3 days, the cravings usually start to subside. After your hunger drops down, which usually is about a week or so. People's hunger is usually so low that my clients will tell me, dude, I can't eat all this food that you're telling me to eat. I can't do it. At that point, what you do is you put less fat on the plate and you start burning more body fat. And it really is one of the easiest ways to eat less food. Like, it's just, it doesn't make it so that you can eat as much fat as you want and like not get fat. I wish it was that way.
Can you do that though and still stay in ketosis? Because I'm less worried about losing weight than I am about just general health and seeing how it makes me feel.
Yeah, you're not trying to lose weight, then you eat fats, man. I mean, like, you eat fat regardless, right? Like, fat's the energy source on a ketogenic diet. So yeah, if you're not concerned with fat loss and you're not doing keto for fat loss, then you're probably going to want to eat, depending on your size, like 180 to 200 grams of fat a day.
I like it.
So yeah, I mean, it's actually a relatively simple process to get adapted to. The most important thing, though, you guys should remember when you're doing it. So the macros are important, right? Making sure you're getting enough protein, about 1.6 grams per kilogram is usually what I recommend. Carbs, keeping them low, about 30 grams net carb, right? So you're not counting fiber. Net carbs is like total carbohydrate minus total fiber, and that'll give you your net carbohydrate. Because fiber is indigestible. It's just there for gut bacteria to feed on, and it's good, but it's not an energy source.
It helps you poop.
So yeah, you keep those carbs low. Yeah, a lot. You keep those carbs low, and you'll get into ketosis. But the really important caveat that many people forget is the electrolytes. So there's something that happens when you cut out carbohydrates. Your body will secrete sodium, magnesium, and potassium as you lose water weight and inflammation. Insulin makes us hold on to water. Absence of insulin tells the kidneys to excrete the water. Your kidneys will excrete extra sodium, especially in the beginning. So you want to make sure you're salting your food liberally and getting loads of sodium in. Most people need at least 5,000 to 7,000 milligrams of sodium a day. So that's like a couple teaspoons of salt. So salting your food liberally is really important. And getting magnesium and potassium in is also important. So those are the 3 electrolytes: sodium, magnesium, and potassium. Got to get those in sufficient quantities on keto. I usually recommend taking magnesium supplement, like the only supplement that I usually recommend to clients. Magnesium, because most of our food is depleted of it and depleted of minerals. But as long as you get enough salt, take some magnesium, about 400 milligrams 2 times daily of magnesium glycinate is usually what I use. And then potassium you can get from diet, from foods like avocados, salmon, pumpkin seeds, meats and fish. They all have potassium in it. Avocado might be the best source of potassium. So you get potassium from foods magnesium from a supplement and from foods, leafy green vegetables, and you salt the crap out of your food, and you'll be good. Now, when people adjust to keto, usually the biggest mistake they make is just forgetting to get the electrolytes in or not understanding how important they are. And what they'll go through usually is they'll have like headaches and leg cramps, heart palpitations, stuff like that. Those are all just symptoms of of electrolyte depletion. So you keep the electrolytes up and you'll be good.
So get more salt?
Best to use non-table salt, like non-refined salt, like Himalayan salt or sea salt and stuff like that.
So that's, you've been paying attention. So Darren and I had this.
I have Himalayan salt.
Okay, good. We had this big argument about the differences between salt. So
I still say that. Yeah, genetically, there's no difference.
Okay, well, there's sodium chloride. There's no difference between sodium chloride in Himalayan salt or sodium chloride in Morton salt. So sea salt has lots of cofactors and loads of other minerals in there with it. Himalayan salt in particular has a little bit more potassium and some other things. I think Himalayan salt's fine. It's not – I think it's overmarketed though.
Yeah, totally.
I like bursting bubbles. But I think when you look – all right, so I was involved in importing and exporting. Still do it sometimes, but before I started Primal Edge Health and started doing, started publishing, putting out content online, stuff like that, I was involved in importing and exporting high-end foods from niche markets, and Himalayan pink salt is one of those foods that's really big in like the superfood world, right?
Yeah.
But it's really nothing special. It's all coming from China. They call it Himalayan salt, but it's Chinese. It's all from China because they own the Himalayas. So it comes from China. It's all mined from one area that's got massive amounts of it. And when you buy it in bulk from China, it costs less than 5 cents a pound.
Wow. Because I always think it's rare. I always think
buy a crate of it.
Because I always worry that it's rare and we're going to run out.
No, all right, so dude, salt's amazing. All right, so South America's got some amazing salt flats too. So Bolivia's got pink salt that's just as good as the Himalayan salt. There's some salt mines. It's like, Redmond Real Salt or something like that from, I think somewhere in Montana. There are a lot of different salts that are great. And sea salt's a good option as well. I know some people are freaked out about Fukushima and stuff like that, but I don't know. But yeah, unrefined salt is the way to go. And I kind of prefer to use like a mix of, if you're going to use Himalayan salt, I usually suggest mixing it in with sea salt as well, just because. And I haven't seen any substantial proof of this, but I've heard there's some people who claim that Himalayan salt is really not very good. They just say that it's like got a lot of dead minerals in it. I don't know if that's true. That's just, so just to be safe, I think it's good to mix up and use different types of salt and not just stick to it.
So what about through all your research and all your coaching as well? Dealing with chronic issues. Like Darren's wife and my girlfriend both have had like migraine problems, and my girlfriend's going through like really bad stomach stuff and IBS, and I also wanted to talk about my doctor's appointment recently about my kidneys. So, but I guess start with the migraines and the IBS.
For sure, man. Well, look, IBS is huge nowadays, man. When I was growing up, I mean, I can't tell you how many rounds of antibiotics I was on. We've got vaccine injuries, you've got glyphosate, gluten intolerance and stuff like that. We've got a lot of issues going on in the guts these days. And cutting out the refined carbohydrates, cutting out the processed sugar, it can be really, really good for those situations. But there's no magic bullet for like all gut issues, right? There's hundreds of different bacteria that can colonize the gut. If certain bacteria get out of balance, they can cause major disruptions. So gut issues are usually kind of a gradual thing, right? Like rather than just blasting it with antibiotics and completely wiping it out and then trying to repopulate, which usually doesn't work that well. I think for gut issues, I've found in my life that eliminating foods that bother the body it should be like the first step, right? Pulling out the crap that makes you inflamed is step one. If you eat a food and you know that every time you eat that food, it sends you running to the bathroom or makes you constipated, then avoid the food. Like, there's common sense.
It's really hard to tell.
But then after that, it's super hard, right? To be able to know like what's going on. But stress can also play a huge role in the gut. So it's like food is big, but also stress can be even bigger. So, I mean, deep breathing can stimulate the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is actually, they call it the gut-brain axis. And it goes directly to, it's a direct link to the brain, direct link between the gut and the brain. And deep breathing, diaphragmatic breathing, activates and tones the vagus nerve, which actually improves digestion and all that. So, reducing stress is probably the number one thing that somebody can do with IBS, stress reduction. After that, removing the foods that are offensive. So usually like lectins, lectins are plant toxins that are there to protect the plant from being eaten by predators like us. When our immune systems aren't working properly, when we have gut issues, gut permeability or inflammation, sometimes those medicinal compounds in the plants, like there's certain compounds in broccoli and stuff like that, sulforaphane, that trigger these gene expressions. Because the plant toxins are not good for us, then our body reacts by throwing out antioxidants or throwing out, or just there's certain reactions that happen in the body that are beneficial to the immune system from these plant toxins. Like vitamin C in and of itself is not good for you. It's the reaction in your body when it discovers that vitamin C that is actually good for you. So avoiding those plant toxins.
Defenseless plants.
Yeah, the problem is the doctors they can't figure this out either, right? Like the problem is you go back and forth from the doctors and they really don't know what to do, right? It's a real challenge. I mean, my dad had IBS until he got operated on and they realized he was full of cancer in there. Like it's weird. So, but it took him years to figure it out, and then they ended up operating on him. But anyways,
what happened? I mean, he was just. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
What was it? What about the migraines then? Is it similar type thing? Because like let's say keto is good. Like you were talking about the neuroprotection. Does that help? Because the vagus nerve is connected with migraines as well, right?
Yep. Absolutely. All right. So another strategy for IBS that I've seen be really beneficial is deep breathing. Like, have you heard of that guy Wim Hof?
Yeah.
Crazy Dutch guy. All right, so that guy's little breathing technique, I've seen it be very beneficial for people's immune system, and reducing stress. So just to go back to, but migraines. Jessica, you want to come talk about migraines? All right, so Jessica used to have debilitating migraines. Like when we first got together, I'd never been around somebody who had migraines like that before. Remember, you used to just like lay in bed and your face would get all pale and your jaw would get all tight. Here's my wife, Jessica.
Yeah, it's hard to forget those days.
so Graham's wife sometimes gets.
Darren's wife and my girlfriend both have migraine issues. They're different types of migraines, I believe. Like Darren's wife has less frequent, like really debilitating, and then my girlfriend used to have really chronic, like almost everyday migraines. But they stopped quite a bit after she got a daith ear piercing. Actually, helped her with a lot of hers, but she still gets headaches.
Wow. You said an ear piercing?
Yeah, the daith piercing. Actually, like for like a year, she went pretty much. She hasn't had the same type of migraine since she got that special daith piercing. It's really weird.
Oh, that's fun.
And the piercing is meant to solve this?
No, it's not meant to. But there's a bunch of people that have noticed migraines going away since they did it, and so I was like, well, let's go try it. So she heard about it, and then she tried it, and it actually worked. And it's something to do with. The nerve, I think. I don't even know what it's to do with, but it worked.
Yeah, that's amazing, right? Like how everything in the body is connected. Like the whole acupressure and acupuncture thing.
It sounds like a very extreme acupressure.
Yeah, that's fascinating. You know, the indigenous, like here, the pre-conquest people who lived here used to just mutilate the shit out of themselves. Their ears, they would wear these huge hoops in their ears and then wear these like gold pieces under their nose and just all kinds of augmentations to their to their skulls and their heads.
They didn't have metals though, right? In the ears, it was copper and silver and
copper.
gold.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But yeah, so you used to get migraines. Do you want to talk a little bit about like what helped you, or do you remember even?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think changing my lifestyle helped me, right? Which is like very specific for my own self. It's hard to make a prescription for other people.
Like we're crazy. We changed our lifestyle by selling everything we had and moving to Ecuador.
But that was part of it. I mean, at the time when I was getting migraines, I wasn't conscious about the amount of water that I was taking, so I was likely very dehydrated. Wasn't on a very regular sleep schedule. I was on a lot on birth control for a long time. I had a bit of candida yeast overgrowth, so I mean, we're drinking a lot of alcohol and eating a lot of refined sugars, a lot of processed
What I
carbohydrates.
remember was there was a big shift. Like, so we made a lot of changes, and then eventually we started doing keto.
Yeah.
I remember when you started doing keto, your migraines had already gone down a significant amount, but then you said something to me like you thought it really made a difference.
I do think it's made a difference, and it's made a, I want to say like a sustainable difference, where I don't even think about it anymore, to be honest. I think salts and electrolytes have a role to play. I think getting adequate intake of magnesium is very profound for me for both digestion and just like pain-free, no headaches. If I feel a headache coming on, maybe once every like 6 months or something, that I'll feel a little, and it's just a headache too. It's not a migraine or anything.
Her migraines, she used to like moan. Like, she would lay in bed
Just lay in
moaning,
bed.
and I would freak out because I'm like, I'm a wuss. I don't like when people that I love are sick. I can't handle it. That freaked me out when she used to get those migraines. And I haven't seen her have one of these, and she definitely hasn't had one in the last 3 years. But I don't remember the last time she had one. But check this out. I just found a study. Just a quick Google search, and the voice of the gods has spoken. The voice of science says that ketones kill migraines. So I remember, I think I actually talked about this on the channel before. I'd seen some of this information, but they did a study, and 2013 ketogenic diet was found to reduce migraine frequency in 90% of patients.
Wow.
Ooh, that's freaking sick, right? 90% of people? Wow.
I'll have to try that.
So
out.
yeah, I'd say that there's a good chance that she might, your ladies might fit into that 90%. I'd give it a try.
Yeah.
It's definitely worth a shot.
The problem is, and I know at least my girlfriend for sure, that her comfort food is, like it's probably grain based, right? Like lately we've been trying to just shift away from that, both of us actually. But yeah, that's part of the problem is you get in that cycle where you feel comfortable with the food that's not healthy for you.
So,
for sure, but that's just the food that you know about.
It only takes 21 days to ingrain a new habit, right?
Exactly, yeah.
So it's like you will be totally comfortable not eating that food in 21 days if you put your mind to it and you say, baby, let's do this. We're going. So, if you guys do it, really, you can still bake stuff. You can still have bready type foods and really enjoyable, palatable foods. And do it, but it just takes a few weeks of habit formation. And it's like, I think one of the best ways to start is start out with a nice breakfast. Have a breakfast of at least about 30 grams of protein, 30 to 40 grams of protein for you, maybe 40 for your wife, like 30 or 25 grams, but a decent amount of protein, a decent amount of fats. So maybe like 40 to 60 grams of fat and a bunch of veggies. And you fill up on that breakfast. You could have eggs and bacon if you want with some vegetables, or you can have, I really like omelets because Jessica makes them for me.
Then you can throw a bunch of stuff in there, right? Then you can throw a bunch of stuff in there. Exactly. It's kind of,
Yeah, it's like a soup. You just throw shit in. So you have like 3 eggs, you start putting herbs, and you can sprinkle bread in there. No, I'm just kidding.
But you can add sausage. You can add, like leftover vegetables.
You have like 3 different types of cheeses in there if you want. That's what this week I was just doing like goat cheese omelets, and I would add leftovers from whatever we had the night before. So if we had like swordfish or sausage or something like that, I would just add that into my omelet. But like bulk preparing vegetables and bulk preparing certain foods is a really good idea too, to have them on hand. And but it's just basically, it's like you throw away the stuff you don't want to eat anymore, and you start finding the things you do want to eat, and you keep those in abundance in your house. You just always have avocados, eggs, meat, lamb, salmon.
It becomes a very celebratory process. You know, we don't ever think that we're depriving ourselves of anything. We don't feel like we're missing out on anything. We have so much, and they're all of our favorite foods.
The program is more like the way we've programmed ourselves is more like if we're not eating healthy, then we feel like we're missing out, right? Because it's like we've kind of gone through this weird journey of being, I don't know, both of us were kind of unhealthy when we got together.
Oh, extraordinarily
like,
so.
There's no video to share, but I could show you some like just funny pictures of when I was like 21, 22 years old when we met. And yeah, I mean, we were just I treated myself like shit. I thought I was invincible.
Kids. We didn't know how to take care of ourselves.
I thought I was invincible, and I didn't know what I was supposed to eat too. You're right. I think that's a big problem in society, right? It's like we grow up, we go to school, we're used to. It's like we're not really taught how to feed and nourish ourselves. Right, yeah. We're taught how to drug ourselves with food, and the marketing and all this stuff kind of works against our health in many ways. But yeah, if we learn how to nourish ourselves, and we learn what makes us feel good, and we learn the foods that don't leave us inflamed and don't, mess us up, and we just focus on nutrient-dense whole foods that are unrefined, that taste great, then things kind of seem to click into place, at least for most.
Good foundation. Anyways, what about some other little biohacks? Like, I've been playing around with a bunch of different things. Like, if I was to read off a list to you, like, is there any that stands out as being really important? Like, for example, sun, water, like clean water, cold thermogenesis or extreme heat or exercise and yoga. Like you mentioned, deep breathing already, extra like supplements, or even, like we talked about fasting already, or dry skin brushing. I mean, there's all kinds of like little tricks. Like, is there anything that
you just named so many good things, man. I mean, like, so you mentioned cold thermogenesis and heat exposure, right? So that activates loads of genes that fight cancer, that actually reduce inflammation. There's all kinds of cool effects that happen when you expose yourself to extreme hot or extreme cold. The body responds to those stressors by strengthening itself. So yeah, it's fantastic, man. Resistance training is always a good thing. Maintaining lean muscle mass, bone mineral density, right. Sunshine. I know. To me, I've been obsessed with like just sunbathing since I was like 20 years old, or I think it was like 20 when I lived in this apartment when I was going to college. And there was a pool out there, and I don't know. I just started like going and laying out in the sun like all the time, and I would get like, I don't know. It was like a drug almost. Like it would regulate my mood. If I was in a shitty mood and I looked outside and it was sunny, and I went outside for 10 minutes in the sun, like I would feel better instantly. So I don't know. I'm really into sunbathing. I'm a huge proponent of sunshine on the bare skin, avoidance of sunscreen, stuff like that. Putting toxic aluminum on our skin, very bad. So yeah, I mean, sun exposure, cold exposure, heat exposure, occasional fasting. All of these are fantastic strategies. We got a dry brush too. You mentioned dry brushing. We got one of those. What else do we like? I mean, with most of these things, you can't do everything all the time, right? So it's kind of like you find certain things that you like doing. Like I like doing saunas. I can't do it every day because I'll get depleted, but it's like cycling those in, getting in cold rivers and stuff like that. All of these things are just as important as diet, right? I think a well-balanced lifestyle will have us frequently outside in the sun, exposed to natural bodies of water. So yeah, I think just living a life that's getting outdoors as often as possible, getting out in the fresh air and the sun, and getting in places where there's no cell phone service, just for your sanity can be really good. Yeah.
Jessica, do you want to mention a bit about your book? I think you guys should plug your book a little bit.
I'm usually the one who sells that. Yeah. It's easier for me to sell it.
Oh,
because I just
on.
love Jessica so much. I could just praise her all day. Praise her book.
It's what, like 140 recipes or so, all based on healthy or whole food or ingredients. It's really the book that I wrote for myself, and then it kind of morphed into this really cool project that we are now able to offer our audience.
It's basically like our family keto cookbook. Like during our whole first 3 years, she was just documenting all these recipes. She's had stacks and stacks of them, and she was experimenting with lots of them and refining them. And she really did a nice little number on that. And we call it a training manual, right? So we call it the Ketogenic Edge Cookbook, a training manual for low carbohydrate, ketogenic, and paleo cuisine. Lots of words in there. But we do call it a training manual, not just because we thought that would be clever to say, but it legitimately is a training manual. Just we wanted to teach people how to just prepare nutrient-dense whole foods.
From scratch with simple ingredients. I mean, we use a lot of herbs and spices to flavor our foods. We use a lot of just whole protein sources. I mean, there's fish, there's seafood, there's different types of meats. We included an organ meat section as a way to hopefully bridge people's interest into very nutrient-dense recipes.
Using the parts of the animals that have the most nutrition, like the liver and the heart. When you look at apex predators, that when they make a kill, when a wolf makes a kill, they eat the liver. I remember that scene in with little Leo DiCaprio. What was that movie?
I didn't watch that movie, but I skied in those mountains.
Wow,
nice.
You guys, you should. It was a good movie, despite his obnoxious, pretentious public statements. That was a great movie. But he was starving, and one scene in the movie, he comes upon the guy that just killed a buffalo, and the dude throws him the liver, and he just takes a big bite of the raw liver.
Is that the one where
I'm not saying you have to do that.
That recipe is in the cookbook.
No.
That's the one where he gets mauled by the bear?
Yeah.
That's worth watching just for that scene.
Yes. And there was the opening scene too, with the battle with the Indians, and they're like jumping out of the trees and stuff, and the way that it's shot, so beautiful. That was a good film.
You, sir.
Anyways, the most nutrient parts of the animal usually get overlooked in our modern society, right?
Which also makes them the most more economical. So if you're on a budget, there's options to add in.
Liver and heart can be really economical.
It must be weird for you guys being into this for so long. We've really, the keto thing has really taken off in the last 2 or 3 years, but you guys have been at this for way before that. It must be weird to see this huge acceleration in this type of eating.
It's crazy.
It's grown a lot.
It's super crazy. And I'm like the original hipster, right? It's like once things start getting popular, I think they're super lame. I'm glad that the popularity of keto is skyrocketing now. It's not just because we've been putting out content about it for so long and it's our niche, but I think it's a really cool tool that people can use. And I think it's a really important thing now that people start considering the way we would be eating, or that considering our ancestral diets, right? Considering the conditions that we developed in, and leveraging, our environment to try and give us an optimal diet is really important. It's the domestication of grains, the domestication of animals, and the domestication of people all go hand in hand. And you get people on a domesticated diet and they'll be dumb and domesticated. We're all about empowering people. We want people to feel alive, happy, and vibrant. And, through arranging the diet in certain ways, there's many different ways to do it, not just what we teach, right? There's a million different ways. But arranging the diet in a healthy way that's just, it can have amazing effects on everyone around us, right? It's if we're happier, if we're less grumpy or not getting hangry all the time, there's just people around us can enjoy life more. And that's kind of what I see diet as. It's a bridge to having more life. And that's what we want. We just want more life. Like, we don't want more nonsense. We don't want more, we don't want more, like, there's no point in getting healthy if, like, you have.
Well, and it never feels good either to feel like your food has power over you. I find a lot of inspiration in people who pursue certain things in their life where they have more autonomy over themselves and they gain greater control over their self and over their thoughts and over their behaviors. And what Tristan's saying is that all ripples out from within us.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And keto is a tool for that.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at with fasting as well, because that's what I feel like when I try I tried to fast for just a couple days, and it was amazing the power that the food had over me, and I wasn't even hungry. I wasn't even necessarily hungry, but that habit of eating was there.
Yeah, long-term fasting can just be so profound, man. I mean, long-term fasting can be more profound than any, I don't like this word, but like psychedelic, experience that one can have. I don't like the word entheogenic either. I don't like any of those words, but I mean, fasting, a really deep fast can be so profound. You start to feel things around you, right? Like you start to feel energy in a different way. You start to feel energy flowing through your body in a different way, and you get very much in tune with all the different levels of your being when you get into that state. And it's powerful, and there's a reason why every spiritual tradition in the history of mankind has included fasting in some way, shape, or form as a way to come closer to the truth, to heal, and to come closer to knowledge and revelation of the divine realms. So I think, fasting's fantastic.
Yeah, well said.
But I don't think people should do it for aesthetic purposes, though.
Just a good
throw
side
that
effect.
out there. Like, you're trying to lose weight, don't fast. That's just silly. If you're trying to grow as a person and figure out why you're so annoying to yourself and screwed up, then fasting might be an awesome thing to do.
Bingo bango.
Right on. Is there anything you want to mention before we wrap it up about your site or about your coaching or anything else?
Yeah, you can find our stuff at Primal Edge Health, primaledgehealth.com. We got a YouTube channel. We try to do live hangouts often, or at least I do. I haven't done one in a couple weeks though, because I've been so busy with other stuff. But primaledgehealth.com. We got a YouTube channel. We have a Facebook page, but I don't know. I want to phase that out somehow.
Exactly.
I'm so sick of it.
Good idea.
It's so annoying.
So what about
dude? I get on I'll get on Facebook just to do some work, and I'll end up scrolling down the news feed, and I'll just get annoyed. It sucks.
So what about if people want to know when your hangouts happen? Is the best way to get to your website and sign up to the newsletter, and then you get email notifications?
Totally. Yeah. So if you go to primaledgehealth.com, I try to send out an email notification before I do the live streams. But then there's also this thing on YouTube. What is it called? Yeah, I'm like the worst. I can't freaking promote my own shit. All right. There's a thing on YouTube where you can make notifications when people have events and stuff like that. So if you turn notifications on YouTube, somehow you can find out how to find us there. But yeah, go to primaledgehealth.com. If you want to know when we're doing a live event, sign up for a newsletter. I'll send you out an email before we do it. And
the newsletter's nice because we also send out recipes. Yeah. And little updates about what's going on with us too.
Okay, good. And your I like how you put your YouTubes and your live hangouts on podcasts. That's super important to me that I can digest it in that way instead of having to go to YouTube. So that's good. Good way to get your stuff as well.
Well, thank you so much. We're gonna make sure to keep doing that because Jessica usually does it, and I think she asked me the other day if she should keep doing it.
Oh, my
I was
God.
Like, nah.
Yes. Oh, my God.
But
just for you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, no, we really appreciate it. We're gonna make sure to put them all out on that. And sometimes what I do is I'll take the videos that I've made and just put it in an audio format and release it as podcast as well. Because usually the visual is like inconsequential. It's just like me blabbering in front of a camera, like in my yard, half naked, like just hanging out of my house. So the audio is the most important part. So we're going to do that.
Excellent.
In honor of Grimerica.
Good. Thanks, guys.
And I'll try the keto thing this winter.
Yeah.
So don't forget to send me the meal planner and I'll try it. I'll try it out.
Yeah. Don't forget to remember this winter.
Right on, guys. Well, thanks for coming on the show.
I'm glad that, it's been really nice. Thanks for having me on. It's cool. I really like what you guys are doing. You guys have awesome guests on, and you seem like fun guys. I've never seen you, but if you guys ever want to come down to South America, if you guys ever find yourselves, with itchy feet, and you come down to Ecuador, give me a call.
Definitely, man. I feel like I need to go down there at some point here.
We're
I've never been to Central or South America yet, so.
Ecuador is really easy to travel in. If you're from Canada or America, you get a 3-month visa immediately when you fly into the country. Now, JetBlue flies from from Miami,
Fort Lauderdale.
Oh yeah, Fort Lauderdale to Ecuador, round trip for $300. So yeah, it's a viable trip. Good place to see. You got the Andes, you got the jungle, you got the coast. It's all real nice. And you got us crazies up here.
Right on. Well, thanks for all the
good... We'll stop by and do a podcast.
Yeah. Thanks for all the good work you guys do too. I like how you put everything in context, and you answer lots of good questions live. It's really good non-dogmatic information. I like it.
I try. I think you guys would like the episode I did. I did one recently. I think it was called "Is the American Heart Association a Terrorist Organization?" You guys would like that.
Probably is.
There was a few. Yes.
I listened to it. That's good. Yeah. Well, they're the ones that pushing all that bullshit about
margarine.
Yeah. Can you believe? Yeah, you mentioned that on your show there, Tristan. And, they're pushing margarine over butter, for crying out loud.
Yeah, vegetables, and it's the whole thing is absurd. I mean, it's backwards, it's ridiculous, and the fact that people even take what these organizations say seriously anymore is part of the issue. So we got to kind of just remove these. Got to remove the talons of all this nonsense from our flesh, and just take care of ourselves internally, externally. Take care of the body, take care of the mind, and question the dogma. So that's what we try to do on the channel. We appreciate you guys having us on, and you can find more at primaledgehealth.com, or you can find us on Instagram and Facebook if you want to go that route. But
everybody,
I prefer
go
the website.
Subscribe.
Right on. Thanks a lot, guys.
No problem.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Ciao for now. That's my new call saying.
Ciao for now?
No, I'm just kidding.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Tristan and Jessica.
Yeah, big thanks for coming on the show. I'm try it out.
I'm inspired to follow. Like, I'll do it too. I will. I mean, I've cut out weed already. Like, and it was good to do that before the show in a way. But yeah, I'm inspired to do that.
Now we can make it a competition.
I
do better in a competitive atmosphere.
Yeah, I know.
When I bring donuts
well,
to work in the morning.
Smoking, though? Like, how'd you do that without competitive?
My kids are bugging me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Spoiled little
So
buggers.
if I get your kids to say keto, then you'll be inspired.
Well, I'm inspired to try it for my wife and see if it can,
help the migraines. Did you hear that study, man, about migraines? We've
already been discussing it, kind of. I was trying to get the info out of Adam, but he sent me something, but it just wasn't like I'm a lazy person.
Right.
I wasn't looking to go through some web pages and everything like that, and I just wanted like a package deal. Like he just laid out there.
Well, that's
perfect.
That's
and
the
now
book.
He's going to send me a meal planner. I mean, that's really what I need.
Yeah.
Is something to go by, eat this,
yeah,
for
totally.
a few weeks until you get the swing of it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because it's hard, man. When you go out, it's all over the place. Like it's really hard to eat without, even grain, just without grains to go out is impossible. Everything's got a fucking bun or bread or whatever. Like
that's right. Big thanks to Tristan and Jessica. Check out their podcast. Check out their website. Check out Grimerica.ca/support so you can check out all the ways we can keep having these great informative chats. Not shut down by any coconut oil hating cartels. And sign up for monthly, anywhere from $1 a month to $30 a month. If you don't like what's there, let me know. I can send you something anywhere in between. One-time donation. Of course, that's all going to get you access to the Black Budget support stream, which gets a couple extra episodes a month. And there's 6 or 7, or actually by the time this comes out, there's probably 8, 9 episodes in there. So check that shit out. Thanks to you guys to support the show. Keep the wheels turning. Anything else?
That's it, buddy.
Spam, gram, share the show. review the show. Tell your friends about this motherfucker.
Yeah, throw some reviews on iTunes. That always helps. Yeah.
I'm less concerned with reviews as I am about sharing the show, because you guys are the only guys who can grow the show.
Yep.
So please do. That's all. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. We will see you next week.
They threw me to the wolves, playing a game, ganging up on me, mind games, no rules. But you can't face me, cause I'm crazy, grooving to the tambourine, riding in my Lamborghini, eating on some tangerine. I'm all out of clean clothes, rubbing elbows with who knows, maybe some hobos. I'm on the train tracks, walking that same path, grooving to the tambourine, riding in my limousine, eating on some jelly beans. Damsel in distress, there's an evildoer hand on the lever, but I'm ever more clever. She says save me, well alright baby, grooving to the tambourine, riding in my submarine, eating on some laser beams. To the wolves, playing a game, ganging up on me, mind games with no rules. But you can't face me, cause I'm crazy, grooving to the tambourine, riding in my Lamborghini, eating on some tangerines. Time capsule, without a mystery. If they make you laugh, if they make